Hello everyone, welcome to the War Room Esports. Today I will be hosting instead of George because I know George wants to talk a lot about today's games and we're trying something out to see how this works with me hosting instead. With me, obviously, I mentioned George already and also Nasser, our usual co-hosts, so please say hello.
Hello, guys.
And with us once more is our special guest Locodoco to help us break down the games from yesterday at the Chicago Theater between Samsung Galaxy and Cloud9.
Hey guys, I don't have a dog today, so I'll try to be interesting in my own ways.
Should be
Um,
good. Should be good.
dog carrying War Room Esports since
Yeah.
2016.
So we should begin with the. Should we go straight to the game one discussion, or is there something we want to talk about before? Actually, Loco, what were you expecting going into this game? Were you expecting like a 3-0, or were you hopeful that C9 could get off a win?
I was expecting a 3-0, but there was like a slight thought in the back of my head that C9 actually fixes their problems and they have players that are individually good enough in terms of mechanics to actually put up a fight. There was like a lingering feeling maybe they actually do fix their problems, but they didn't and they got 3-0'd.
Yeah.
I have a question. Do you actually think a team can fix like these kinds of macro issues in like 1 week or like 2 weeks?
It depends. There's been various times where teams had like shitload of success like really quickly and things start clicking. I can remember on TSM for summer split playoffs, like we were like hot garbage, and then Andy came in and helped us, and we fixed a lot of problems within like a week or two. And then on
Yeah.
Team Liquid, one day it clicked for Dardoch and Matt regarding how they need to play together and how they need to set up macro. Maybe it was over the course of the split, and then like that clicking and the improvement came like within a week though. Like within a week we made more progress than we did in like 2 months. So
Okay.
I don't think like you can like someone can come in and work with a team and they get better in a week, but once like a catalyst happens or like a event happens, like they can definitely get better extremely quickly.
Yeah, I kind of
Okay.
want to follow up on that a bit. I don't think you can necessarily like fix your issues in a week, but I think maybe sometimes it's a bit kind of it's a bit kind of like weird in the way that sometimes you can have these issues like the whole time, and then you can fix them, but it doesn't show up on stage, and then you just get like 1 week of really good practice, or like 1 week of practice where everything just suddenly clicks, like Lucas says, and then suddenly like on stage it just looks like you've improved so much. So like while it feels like you've like made all this improvement in 1 week, what actually happens is sometimes like all the stuff you've been working on like the months prior to that all kind of just click together at the same time, because you find what ends up happening is when one thing clicks, kind of a lot of stuff follows through, because a lot of stuff that like clicks kind of is reliant on that one thing working, and once that starts working, everything else falls into place after it. So sometimes you can have these like weird issues where you just show up in 1 week, and it looks like you've made all this like really great improvements and really great strides, but actually what's happened is the months of work on like specific issues, or you finally like find a draft strategy that works for your team, or something like that. Sometimes something like that can just happen, so it's not outside the realm of possibilities that Cloud9 show up, but I wasn't expecting much.
I mean, it just terms of like League of Legends improvement, like League of Legends like isn't like a gradual slope where you improve like this. I feel like it's like math and other concept-based stuff where you improve in staircases, where a bunch of concepts start clicking in your head, and then also because it's a team game, once it clicks for the team entirely, like you level up, and then you have a plateau until you unlock like the next level of concepts or next things you need to learn as a team, and then you level up and then you plateau again. So I feel like that's how it works. Yeah, like we definitely seen sudden improvements in teams before.
Okay, that's fair. So shall we move on to the game one discussion, because I know you guys want to get into this. So
Let's go.
yeah, let's go. So moving
Let's
into
go.
the first draft, and it's not showing up for whatever reason.
A lot of interesting drafts in the series.
Yeah, for sure. I I think what struck me as the most interesting thing for me was the Olaf first pick. I definitely was not expecting it at all. So
Because we didn't see it from Ambition at all,
yeah, we didn't see
and
it.
it didn't seem like
Yeah, go on.
yeah, and it didn't seem like something the Koreans had practiced in their boot camp, and they only like started playing it once they saw like how some Western teams had like some effectiveness with it.
So do you definitely
And
think that this was something that was picked up by the teams after they saw, like, especially NA? I think it was NA who played it the most, right? NA was
Yankos, I think, played it once.
Yeah.
I can't remember in week 1, but yeah,
It
I think
yeah.
most teams picked it up between week 1 and week 2. We saw SKT play it,
Mhm.
and I think Rocks played it. I can't remember, and then we saw Samsung playing it yesterday in the quarterfinals for the first time.
Mhm.
And Medios had an interview with the Score Esports, and he said they didn't expect the Olaf to come out at all, let alone it being the first pick. So it threw them off really hard.
Yeah, I mean, it threw me off. I was not expecting Olaf, and much less as a first pick, like first pick blue side. So yeah, I'll let Loco talk since he hasn't talked for a bit. What do you think of the first game going into this draft?
The Olaf first pick. I mean, to start with, I don't know. Maybe I started from like with LS, and people like disliking Olaf.
Yeah,
Yeah,
why
I
do you
actually-
think? What do you think is good about Olaf? Because LS seems to really dislike the pick.
Okay,
Even though I have
so-
to say it has the second highest win rate at Worlds
Okay.
jungler behind Lee.
So what's the four most popular jungles right now? Nidalee by far, and then Elise, and then Olaf, and then Rek'Sai, right? And Nidalee is the most popular because she's just getting constantly banned. So she
Yep.
is the most contested pick, but she doesn't see much play. And then if you look at the other two junglers that are popular other than Olaf, Elise and Rek'Sai, they both actually struggle a lot versus Olaf. Olaf can invade onto them pretty easily. Mid game, Olaf rushing towards an Elise is really strong, and Olaf scales better than Rek'Sai. So like in the jungle pool, once Nidalee's out, the amount of early game pressure Olaf brings, the amount of scaling that Olaf brings, the team comps that you run with Olaf actually are really favorable for Olaf compared to the other junglers, especially Elise and Rek'Sai, who are the most popular afterwards. So I think Olaf first pick was pretty good. There wasn't anything
Yeah.
contested that they really had to take. So Ruler had both his main picks up, Jin and Caitlyn. So yeah, I thought Olaf first pick worked out perfectly for them.
Yeah, go ahead.
I actually really liked. I kind of want to move away from the Olaf aspect. So if you wanted to mention the Olaf, you can talk about that before I move on. To
Just one last thing. It's like
Yeah.
why it's really good as well is because he has really strong clear, and he has really strong gank presence. If you push up lane, we saw multiple times in the series where a Cloud9 member had a winning lane matchup, but because he was pushed up, Olaf had like super easy time ganking them, blowing their flash, etc. And also, if he starts going and he gets like that one kill, he just becomes like he can basically one shot your carries in the mid game so easily by himself because of his ult, and no one can like stop him.
Yeah,
CC him.
if summoners are down, it's like he just runs over you.
Yeah.
I think it's worth mentioning real quick that the first pick Olaf, while it might be weird, it's also a game where we see like a lot of mid bans coming out of from Samsung. Like they always ban the Syndra, and that means like the priority on those first pick champions that we usually see, like the Syndra, like the possibly even the Nidalee if they wasn't banned. They kind of decrease because there's nothing else to first pick in terms of like really high priority champions.
Sure.
Yeah, with Syndra and Nida gone, there isn't that much of a standout for a first pick.
I mean, maybe Karma, I think that actually, like, C9 gives up Karma here, like, they don't first rotate it.
I even this way, I actually really like C9's composition in
Mhm.
terms of like what they want to do in the game. So like, I mean, we could ignore for a second like what Samsung Galaxy picked. I want to talk about like specifically about what C9 picked, and in terms of like, and this is kind of in the context of how they've been playing this tournament and what they've seen the most success on. So first of all, they get the like good team fight from Impact. We've seen that Impact is not doesn't have like the best TPs in coordination with his team. Whether that's his fault, whether that's the team's fault, it's like a separate issue. But what we have seen is there seems to be some kind of disconnect between Impact and the rest of his team, and with regards to his teleport plays. So I like the idea of putting him on a champion that can kind of just like follow up on a TP kind of whenever and always be impactful due to his ult. So he doesn't really need that crucial timing on a TP like you need from like a Kennen, or if like you need from like an Echo or one of these like really kind of quintessential TP champions. So I really like the fact that he's just on this kind of like team fighting champion like Rumble. I really like that. I really like the fact that they put Smoothie on Alistair, because as we've seen that he prior to this series had really good synergy with Meteos, and it been going into specifically top lane actually and snowballing Impact, which I really liked. So I like the fact they put him on that as well, and I like the fact they put Meteos on Rek'Sai, because as we've seen is Meteos on like Lee Sin and Nidali is kind of like playmaking champions. He just doesn't seem to be as comfortable as when he's on hand of his tanks. It just has to operate as like a control rather than having to make active plays in the early game. You can kind of just spend more time being like trying to just control a jungle and trying to just get his team into the mid game. So in terms of that, I actually really like this composition for the C9. I think it fits a lot of what I would want them to do strategically in terms of a composition, and I think it fits a lot of how they seem most comfortable playing, at least coming into this point in the tournament.
Now, if you cover Samsung's picks and you just look at C9's, it looks like a good comp.
Yeah.
But I don't like it when you like reveal Samsung's picks and see what they're playing.
Sure.
And this is why. So Samsung is on blue side, and last episode we talked about how blue side kind of enables you if you have that lane pressure from mid and bottom, and you have a jungler that can kind of like invade the enemy jungle kind of easily, you can really punish like what the enemy has picked, because and this is what like happened basically in the draft. Mid Cassio pushes harder than Orianna for like I think up to like I think it's like most of the laning phase, if not all of it, that Cassio has pressure in lane. Same for bottom lane, you have Jhin and Karma versus Alistar and Caitlyn. Even though Caitlyn is a lane bully, paired with Alistar versus a Karma, Jhin and Karma are going to have lane pressure. And then you have the Olaf into Rek'Sai. And if Olaf finds Rek'Sai in the jungle, he can pretty much bully him 1v1.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of this, I think Samsung won draft, at least in terms of the early game, because they're going to be able to enable Ambition much easily than C9 being able to enable their own jungler.
Mm-hmm. What I really liked about the Samsung draft was the Echo pick to finish it, because we haven't seen much Echo, and when we've seen it, it was mostly because it was a crutch for some top laners, and right here it wasn't actually that. It was like, I feel like it was really picked because it's one of the matchups that Echo still does well against the current meta champions is Rumble, right? And Kennen is banned as well, so I think it was a good pick.
But it's a tough time in lane.
Yeah.
Because Rumble is able to push you in, and you can't really farm the wave with Rumble's Flame Splitter coming on. But if you manage to survive and even punish Rumble like Cuvee did, then Rumble's going to have a hard time in the 1v1 long lane scenario.
I think after Spectre's Cowl, it becomes easier for Echo to manage that lane. So after first back, ideally, if you get the Spectres, you can start dealing with Rumble.
Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts about this draft then?
No, I'm pretty good.
I don't like Sneaky on Kate. That's my.
Do you not? Okay, so I'm gonna kind of have to ask you to justify that statement for me, because I actually really like Sneaky on Caitlyn. I don't like him on like. I mean, I like him on like Jhin, Caitlyn, these style of champions. I'm not a huge fan of him on like the kind of, the Ezreal, Lucian's kind of champions.
So
I think he's much better in that kind of setup and siege champion. That's what I've seen him with most success on.
Okay, let me specify. I like Sneaky way better on Jhin than I like him on Kate. I think Sneaky is the kind of player where he doesn't punish mistakes that heavily, and he doesn't force the enemy bot lane or enemy AD to make mistakes, and he often does extremely well by being really, really consistent and playing off of Smoothie's aggression and being really strong in team fight. And if that's how he's gonna play, then I feel like something like Jhin suits him a lot better than like Caitlyn, because Caitlyn, you can force the enemy team to make a lot of mistakes. Like you can force a lot of things onto the enemy team, especially in lane. And I feel like Smoothie's not that type of player, and you lose so much of what makes Caitlyn good by playing the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I really don't like smooth or sneaky on Kate.
I think that's fair.
Okay, that's fair. Even though like game 3, they actually went. To be fair, it's like a bit of an unfair statement for me because it was Caitlyn Karma in game 3 against Sivir Tom Kench, and they actively punished that lane. But like, I feel like that lane is much easier to punish than this one, right? So
Yeah, of course.
I can see that argument from Loco. So we should move into the game. And I think the first thing we want to talk about in general was the Samsung had really good vision on Meteos. George,
Yeah.
I know you wanted to talk about this. Do you want to go to the first clip or?
I just want to kind of bring up some of the things I found when I was rewatching these games, and we could talk about more of the specifics. But I actually have like quite a scary number here. So if you watch this first game, one of the things you'll see is that Samsung Galaxy. If you watch the whole series, one of the things that you'll see that Samsung Galaxy is really good at is getting deep vision inside in the laning phase inside Meteos' jungle, and it's a full team effort as well. It's not just core JJ that gets it. There's also times where Cuvee roams down when he's got pressure in lane and he'll put a ward down and like the inside the enemy jungle. But I mean, people could correct me if I'm wrong here. So all the people who like diligently track jungle all the time will probably find some kind of flaw in this. But from 7:47, I actually think it may be from earlier than this, but between the times of 7 minutes 47 in game and 19 minutes 19, so that entire 12-minute, 11.5-minute time span, there is no more than like a 10 or 15-second window where Samsung Galaxy doesn't know exactly where Meteos is, or specifically which quadrant he's in. For 11 minutes, Meteos is completely useless. He cannot do anything outside of just farm. Like, Samsung Galaxy knows exactly where he is for like 11.5 minutes. Whereas, comparatively, if you look at C9...
Just count the number of pinks. There are 5 pinks from Samsung, and there are no deep wards from C9.
There are never any deep wards from C9. This is what we'll see in this series, is there is never any deep... Like, I have even scarier number for game 2, which we'll kind of move on to. But
to also emphasize, like, it's not like Samsung doesn't have a huge lead. The only reason I can see is because they have lane pressure mid and bottom, which is why they're able to do this. But I still feel like there were windows of opportunity where Alistar with Rek'Sai could have gotten some deep vision.
You know, this is like just a really great example of why, like, what happened this game and why C9 plays this way. If you really think about C9 and their players individually, what they're good at and how they got there and how they had a lot of success in NA, if they all perform really well individually and they build leads individually, and then they just scale and they team fight. So if you look at Sneaky, his biggest strengths are going even in lane and team fighting. That's very individual. He doesn't really dominate the lane with someone or like force bottom dive. If you look at Meteos, he usually has slightly better jungle pathing than the enemy jungler, and he likes slowly building his lead and then being more farmed than the enemy jungler, like come mid game. He's not someone that's really gank heavy or that pressures really hard or that denies vision really hard.
He doesn't even counter jungle much.
He just has more efficient pathing.
Yeah, I mean, he'll like if he sees the enemy jungle on the other side of the map, his first instinct is actually to go inside the enemy's jungle and take his camps. But he's never one who like takes lane pressure and like brings a laner with him to like force the enemy off his camps while he's there. Like I don't see that very often from Meteos at all.
Yeah,
not to the same level that we see from like Svenskeren or like I mean, I don't want to say Ambition because Ambition's not that really heavy counter jungling style either. At least definitely not from this series. But he's definitely not I would definitely never categorize Meteos.
He does it somewhat this series.
Jungler. I mean, he does a bit, yeah, but mostly because he just has like so much vision on Meteos the whole series.
Yeah.
And then you look at Impact and Jensen, they're
Yeah.
really great laners and they can build their own lead, but they don't really snowball it that well. So
Mhm.
all you have five, and then Smoothie's actually the one player that plays like a team. He roams a lot, he provides vision
Yeah.
a lot. I see him top lane, I see him mid lane, I see him try to invade enemy jungle. I see him contesting vision in river, so he actually plays like a team player. But
Sure.
the rest of 4 and C9, they just don't like work as a team, and they do things individually. And it worked in NA because
Yeah.
they had players that were just straight up better than other teams, and they could just fucking brute force that. And they can't fucking do that at world stage. So versus teams that actually know how to play as a team, they just get rolled over like this.
Yeah, that's actually a really important point, which I'm going to talk about in quite a lot of depth for game 2. But yeah, it's the big difference this game is how Samsung Galaxy. Well, the big difference is this series is how Samsung Galaxy operates as a team, and I'm going to actually bring up some really kind of. I'm going to really like shine the spotlight on some of the areas where C9 really fails to operate as a team, and we're actually going to look at how it punishes them really hard. So, but we can get into the first clip for game 1.
So the first actual clip we're going to look at is at 15:20, and I believe this is when, they try to catch out Jin.
They try to do a catch.
Yeah, they try to do a catch on Jin, and it doesn't really work out.
Karma.
Is it? Yeah,
This
the one on
this
Karma. Yeah, this is the one on
Yeah.
Karma because they tried it multiple times, but it never really worked out for them. So let's look at the first one first. 15:20.
One thing you have to notice, guys, viewers, is that Oriana's backing.
Yeah.
Or she was backing, but
she
then
just got to lane.
yeah. So this is like, okay, come now, we're gonna do something.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not very pre-planned.
I think, I mean, for me, in terms of the execution, it's really hard to kind of say what they did wrong because, I mean, one of the things that the casters brought up was that, like, Sneaky walked into auto attack range, into exhaust range. And I actually went back and checked, and exhaust is 650 range, and Caitlyn auto attack range is 650 as well. So I think it's like, I don't know if I would really, like, criticize Sneaky for being in auto attack range. Like, the only thing I would say, if you're going to super optimize this, like, I'm talking if you're going to absolutely min-max the shit out of this, like, all you have to do is, like, pulverize core JJ outside of auto attack range, get in a Q into a trap auto, into an E auto, like the net, and you can get like 2 of the headshots off without exhaust, and then move into exhaust range and stuff. But it's like, I think it's super picky to kind of like point that out and be like, oh, this is a mistake. You should absolutely min max this, like, and you're a failure because you didn't. I think it's. I don't know that I would have criticized them for this for their in terms of their dual individual execution on this play.
Yeah, mechanically between the two, not much else you could have done. I think as a team, C9 should have pre-planned this as like a 5-man thing, a 5-man event like engage or like TP play. You know, like there's a ward in the brush between the 2 towers. Rumble could have TP'd first. He TP'd after Echo, and then canceled it. Oriana was backing when they were sitting in this bush. They could have had Ori, start coming up sooner. Same with Rek'Sai. But they were like the rest of the team. I feel like they weren't aware of this plan or like weren't ready to like do anything for this play.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that if Rek'Sai is there, if it's 3 of them instead of 2, they get this kill pretty clean and they back off. So yeah, I feel like it's a bit like, I think it was Jarch who mentioned that it was a bit like, oh, we can do this, let's do this play. And it's not really pre-planned. And just to mention that, like, Sneaky gets exhausted, and through exhaust, he does, like, all of his damage except for the auto attack after the net, which is the guaranteed headshot. Like, the brunt of his damage is all cut by exhaust, and that's why Core JJ survives. But
if he auto EQ'd, then Core JJ dies, no? And then that's outside of exhaust range.
I mean, yeah, like,
yeah.
This was like you could maybe super optimize this, but I don't. I mean, would you really like if you saw this in a scrim? Would you look at this and be like, "Nah, you should have min maxed this like in this way"? Do you know what I mean? Like,
players hate it.
Yeah, players hate it.
You never talk about min maxing. Players just hate it.
Yeah. But, so I'm not like super on. I wouldn't hold this against them that bad. Like, of all the things that went wrong in this series, I'm not going to start going, you should have been max this specific skirmish right here. Like, there's too many other things.
That's
like this is not the reason why C9 lost this series at all.
I mean, yeah, like I was saying, I don't think this is okay. Sure, they could have gotten killed, but I would have liked to see a whole
Oh,
5-man
sure, yeah. Like you are
to get
you are
back
right.
to the game. Like that's how RNG got back versus TSM in their game one versus them. You know, they were behind like a few K gold down, and they made like a huge TP play that caught TSM off guard.
But I think it's
So,
worth mentioning that the thing is, like, when C9 sets up these plays, they need to be very aware of what summoners are up and the ones that are not. Because, like,
Yes.
if Core doesn't have exhaust there, it's a guaranteed kill. If he doesn't have flash there, it might be a guaranteed kill as well. You know, and these kinds of things, I felt like every time they tried to go for one of these plays, they always did it when the enemy always had summoners. So if it's a situation when the enemy that has summoners, I feel like the objective is more like to make them blow summoners and just back off and then try it again while summoners are down. I think the objective,
sure, yeah.
like the objective is different. Like, let's say you're ganking, right? I think the objective is very different if you're ganking a flashless lane or a lane with flash. Because with a flashless lane, you like 100% want to guarantee that kill. If it's a lane with flash and you blow the flash, it's like, okay, I got the flash blown, so I can come back later. You know?
Sure.
All right, let's stop circle jerking about mechanics and move on to the next thing.
Yeah. So
Yeah, exactly, guys.
next clip, I know Jarge wanted to talk about this quite a bit, which is the one at 1945. I think this is the play that really
Right,
ends the
so
game.
Actually, yeah, so this for me, so we could talk about, so let's just, I'm actually going to roll through this twice. So let's roll through it first. So everyone knows like the big picture about this play is, so C9 set up another play in the Traverse. So they, they do the right thing. They've got the vision. So now the first thing that's important to note is that Ruler blue trinkets this brush. So Smoothie has to flash. You can't just walk up and pull. And they miss the trap. And then what we see later is that the Cuvee manages to find a solo kill onto Impact. And then he TP's bot. So it's like, it's super bad for C9. Yeah. So super bad for C9 because Cuvee gets to kill Impact. But you'll notice Cuvee's like not even like past half HP. So actually, what I want to do is rewind, and then if you pause at the start, and I want to talk people through something else that happens.
Oh, whoops. Yeah, sure. So,
Okay, so
more or less here, or do you want a bit more seconds?
Okay, I want you to pause. Keep going.
Okay.
Okay, and then pause.
Okay.
Right. So look at the top lane. So look where Cuvee is right now. So Cuvee is recalling. So I want you to watch that recall, Shaka, and then pause when he's not recalled anymore. So sorry, pause when he's in base. Okay, you'll notice that he recalled on a ward. So Cuvee. So the communication here from C9 is that right? Okay, Cuvee is in base. He's probably looking to set up for a TP. Do we really be setting up for this play? And then they're like, yeah, sure, we can get this pick. It's a one shot. Sure. And I think, okay, fine. So watch what happens. So just watch the top lane and watch where that wood is. So you can roll the clip. And then so what you see is they set up for the play. And then Cuvee ults back to lane. But you'll notice literally 1 second later, Impact starts TPing to the bot lane. So Impact's not even watching this ward. So they're not respecting the fact that Cuvee can ult back into lane, which is a standard echo play. So you can keep rolling the clip.
Yeah.
And so this is the reason why Impact gets ultra fucked, and ultimately why C9 gets ultra fucked. So not only did they mechanically not execute the play properly because Sneaky missed the trap, which I don't think is that exciting at all. What I think is really important is that the communication pair from C9 breaks down in so many different ways. So number one, they shouldn't be setting up for a play like this really if Cuvee's in base looking for a TP, because he's going to be coming into the fight on a power spike, and that's just bad news for C9. And second of all, Impact is too busy watching the bottom lane to communicate the fact that Cuvee is going on in them. So there's just so many ways that this breaks down for C9, and I think it's the casters missed this, and I don't particularly fault them for it, because obviously everyone was watching the bottom lane fight and everyone was circle joking about the fact that Sneaky missed the trap. But I think it's just a really important thing to highlight that you have to respect the Echo ultimate. This a standard part of Echo's kit now is that he's gonna recall and ult back to lane.
Yeah, and then TP channel right now is so long that even an Echo parallel convergence which is it's probably the hard CC that takes the most to set up because you need to throw it out and then get into the area. It's still more than enough time to cancel your TP.
Sure. Right. So let's go into the next game. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So this was the play, obviously, that finished the game between Samsung and C9, and the game was pretty much over after this. So next we'll go into game 2.
Mm-hmm.
And the discussion we want to, I think George wants to lead here is with a deep vision comparison between Samsung and C9. It was something that we noticed throughout all game was that Samsung really controlled it well. And whenever they had deep vision, the thing I felt like is that C9 failed to sweep vision they had in their jungle from their opponents. I think that was pretty big. But let's move into the draft first. And it should be...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's here, right? Yeah. Let me change scenes. So this is the draft. We see from this game that C9 takes the Jhin from Ruler after that first game. And Samsung get Karma once again, and they actually get Caitlyn Karma this time, which is a pretty dominant lane when paired together. So I'll let you go first, Loco, because you haven't talked in a while. What are your thoughts on this draft? The fact that Samsung gets Karma again, for example, and the Jhin takeaway for C9.
Okay, so C9 has a Korean comp. This comp is as Korean as it gets. You have a lot of priorities in multiple lanes, and you have well split damage, and you don't have a tank. This is a comp that is really cocky, to be honest. You punish really hard. You can snowball really hard, but once you fall behind with this kind of comp, it's really hard to come back. So it's the kind of comp, if you play perfectly, you get rewarded really heavily. But if you make a single mistake, it's really hard to do anything. You can't face check into brushes to get vision control again. And once you start losing, there's honestly not much you can do. So while C9 did get a lot of comfort champs, like I think this kind of play style, this kind of draft doesn't really suit them. So judging the draft, if it was for a Korean team, for like a ROX or SKT, I'd be like, I see what they're going for, and they could probably pull it off. But this kind of draft for an NA team just doesn't work. Like, you need so much coordination. You need so much discipline. You need to not make mistakes. And NA teams are pretty mistake prone, in my O.
Yeah, they are. I mean, we saw SKT versus IME in game 2 versus them. They had like a similar comp to this, where it's like full siege, little to no peel. The only tank was an Olaf, I think, but they still had some problems, but they had like a big enough gold lead to begin with. It was like 10k or something. That it didn't matter if they made 1 or 2 mistakes. It's a hard comp, but not a lot of teams can do it. I would argue only Korean teams could pull it off in this tournament.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to mention is a trend I've noticed is teams tend to like lose control of the game with these kind of comps if they don't have a support that can reliably initiate or tank for them. So, like, would you guys see an Alistar doing decently here for Cloud9? Or maybe a Braum. But Karma versus Braum is like,
The thing is, like, I think from the last game they were put off by having a melee support. And they just wanted something that could win lane. And like in theory, what they want to do is that they have 3 pushing lanes, and the Rex and the Skarner is going to be reserved in his own jungle, while the Rek'Sai has more mobility, has more freedom and time and space to be able to invade the enemy jungle, steal camps, roam with the Nami, and basically just snowball off of that. But we did see them get a lead, but they made too many mistakes that Samsung just ended up being able to capitalize on their lack of coordination.
Okay, sure. George, what do you want to talk about?
So the big thing for me about this comp is the Jayce pick. I actually like the Jayce pick into Kennen in isolation, because one of the things that Jayce does really well is he keeps Kennen in lane, and he forces Kennen to use TP back into lane, which reduces quite a lot of Kennen's power. Like the main reason anyone picks Kennen is because he gets really good TP flanks off. But if you can force him to back, because you get really good you get really favorable trades, which is actually something we'll see in this game. Is Impact like shits on Cuvee 1v1. He absolutely like dumpsters them. But the problem is that like C9 doesn't do anything with that, and so I really don't like them picking like this kind of champion if they're not going to be playing around Impact. So one of the things we saw in the group stage was there was a bit more like focus on Impact's lane. But for a champion like Jace to do really well into Kennen, and for a champion like Jace at all, you really need to be putting resources into that lane and unlocking the Jace so the Jace can take towers. Because if you don't get the early towers down with these, you know, laning phase champions, like there's no point in having them. Because if you're just going to willingly go into to mid game, 18 minutes and like all the towers are still up and like we just like scaling into teamfight phase, like of course the composition from Samsung Galaxy is going to be much better. They've got so much zone control with the traps and the empowered karma Q with Kennen's ult. It's like it's really hard for C9 to do anything in a team fight. And also if we see Kennen ever get a flank, like the immobile backline from Jin and Cassiopeia and to a degree Jace as well. Though we assume that if Kennen's getting behind, it's like a TP flank, so Jace will also be TPing in, so he won't be in the backline. But you know, regardless of that, we know that like it's going to be really easy for Kennen to get to the really immobile backline of C9. So it's like I just don't see a way where C9's composition works unless they're really committed to snowballing the Jace.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning that you mentioned that Jace is not there in the backline, and the fact that he's not in the backline is pretty bad because what Jace can do, and we saw, for example, Ziv do it against INTZ in groups, was that whenever Kennen tried to go in, he just goes melee and smacks Kennen out, right? And he just kapows him out of there. And this Kennen is also has an Orianna and a Karma with him, so it's so easy for him to flank. Like if he gets one speed up, it's like it's over, you know. So let's dive into clips. I think the first one, Nasser really wanted to talk about this, which is I think both Nasser and Jarj actually. And this is the clips about deep ward vision. So
continuing the theme of last game. Yeah, so continuing the theme of last game where we saw the difference between C9 and Samsung's vision. We see here the Karma on the map who had just recalled and bought a Sightstone, and now look at her warding path. We can just play.
Yep. So she goes through mid lane, which is pretty standard.
She drops a pink, drops a ward, 1, 2, and 3. So basically, they will know what's happening in Meteos' red side jungle. And now let's look at where Smoothie's going. Now Smoothie just backed with a Sightstone in pink. Let's see where he drops his vision. So first he's kind of worried if anyone's in there. Goes through the vision, so they see where he is. He drops a pink in the same pixel brush, clears Core JJ's pink, but then look where he drops his Sightstone wards. Look at the comparison between where Core JJ wards. Like he drops one kind of deepish ward there.
They actually get the sweep 2 here, which is pretty lucky. Actually, only one, but yeah.
Because Meteos started hitting the camp first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Greedy.
But like they already see where he is. They know where he is.
Yeah, you already have the information.
And then if you keep continuing, Nami ends up warding. Keep going. And he wards just like in this river.
Okay.
And like so a lot of defensive vision, whereas Core goes for a lot of aggressive vision, and which that vision, if you're smart about it, you'll know how to play your lane compared to like these because like if you know the Rek'Sai is in that red side jungle, you're gonna know how to play your lane. If it's like on the river, you're gonna know before he comes into your lane that he's gonna be there. There's a slight difference, and just being able to know where he is in his jungle, not just like in river or if he's close to your lane. If you're smart enough, you'll know how to play your lane a lot better, and that's what like Korean teams do so much better than and Western teams or like non-Korean teams in general.
Sure.
Loco, do you want to add something about this?
Well, I just feel like it's not like a Korean or a non-Korean thing. It's just they what is it? Samsung Galaxy, they won lane, and they were the first ones going back. Like they won lane very, very slightly, and they got a better
You think
back
they
timer
won?
off. They won
You-
in terms
you
of
think
back
they-
timer.
They got a better back for
Okay.
Caitlyn. Caitlyn's at
So they-
BF Dagger, and Jin is at Serrated Dirk and Longsword. So I think
Just replay the clip in your head again. We first see what is it? Karma just walk in through the jungle and place all the wards and leave, and then Nami comes in, right?
Mhm.
On the same note, if Nami, like, say the roles were swapped, and C9 bottom was the ones backing first, and they could like physically see Karma and Caitlyn clearing the wave and then backing, then Nami won't be scared to walk into their jungle. But Nami's walking into a situation where she's behind on tempo, and it's very likely they already placed down the vision. So the amount of vision she can place and how aggro and how farther up on the map she can play is completely different.
Do you not think that okay? So after she drops the ward that's slightly in Samsung's jungle, and then she goes around the Drake pit, and they've already pushed bottom lane, and mid lane is pushed. Can't she walk with Meteos into the enemy jungle and drop wards, or is that
What?
too risky?
One that would require Meteos.
Kennen CP is
I-
also down.
That's definitely possible from like just a gameplay point of view. If your bottom is winning and if your mid is winning and your jungler is freed up, yes, you can definitely walk into their jungle and you can definitely play for it. But these aren't those kind of players. Like they don't like taking the right kind of. They don't like taking risk to play for vision, to play, to make sure they have more map control. They just don't do that. Bottom never plays for map control. Smoothie roams around and Smoothie tries to get shit done alone. And Meteos wants the most efficient pathing possible. Meteos is not going to fucking walk into their jungle when double golem is up. Jensen wants to stay in his lane. Jensen is not going to fucking move from his lane. It's the truth of the situation. Meteos is not going to fucking walk into their jungle. He's going to go straight to his double golem. And I don't think Smoothie has like the authority or enough play in the team to be like, yo, Meteos, let's go like contest for this vision. Let's go push this out. Yo, Jensen, come here. Jensen's not gonna come. He's gonna be like, "Fuck you, dude. I have a wave coming." Like that's just the truth and reality of this team.
I'm 9 CS
They're-
behind.
They're really, really, really good individually. They are fucking good individually, and they steamroll NA teams that don't have this kind of team play. Very, very, very few teams in NA have this kind of team play. Maybe TSM and COG. So every other team, they're just gonna be able to steamroll because they're just better individually, and it's the same point I keep bringing up, but Samsung plays as a team, C9 doesn't play as a team, and that's the result.
Yes, and we have more clips in this game which will
Yep.
further emphasize this point.
Yeah, so I actually want to bring up something really important about this vision thing. So I just want to highlight the ward that C9 have at the enemy Raptors. So this is like, so I just want to bring up some numbers. I just want to bring up some numbers here. So anyone who like doesn't like numbers, just kind of tune out for a second. But anyone who does and really likes kind of looking at like how teams approach vision, pay attention because it's quite important. So over the course of the first like 20 minutes, so let's say, so there's like I categorize like two different kinds of vision. So you got like deep vision, which is like vision on camps, vision that you can see junglers doing their natural path, not vision that's used to protect lanes, vision that's purely used to just get like early information on the jungler's whereabouts on the map. So Core JJ, well actually Samsung Galaxy in general, these are the timers where they manage to get vision inside C9's jungle enough that they can see a camp. So at 5 minutes, Cuvee gets a ward at Meteos' blue buff. At 7:20, this is the one we've just seen, where Core JJ walks in and wards all three red side camps. At 10:40, after the dragon, Core JJ wards over the dragon pit after the dragon fight, which does give you enough deep vision. 11:35, Core JJ wards the raptors and the red buff again, and then he wards the ramp entrance. 17:35, Core JJ was the ramp entrance again and behind the dragon pit. And 11:20, Samsung Galaxy takes the bottom tower and they walk in and they take the red buff. So that gives you some vision as well. Now compare that to C9, where the only wards they get on a camp are Meteos invades as part of his natural pathing and wards the raptors, but that gets insta cleared. He does it again at 6:10, which gets insta cleared. At 6:30. Jensen replaces the ward that got insta-cleared by Meteor. So that's the first ward they get. And it's at 6:30, the first ward they get on a camp, and that's just one ward at the Raptor pit. And then 8 minutes, Jensen gets another one on the right. That's the one we just saw, and then that's it. Do you want to know the first time that Smoothie gets a ward deep inside the enemy jungle on a camp in this game? It's 20 minutes and 30 seconds. It's the first time Smoothie gets a ward on an enemy camp. And you look at the amount of times. So like, meanwhile, Samsung has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 wards on camps before this point. Like
actually, could Shaka put up the what do you have on screen for us right now?
Oh yeah, sure.
And show it to the viewers?
Yeah, we were gonna move to second clip, but we'll start here, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, look at the vision that C9 has. It's all river vision.
Yeah.
And they have control in all lanes right now. They have pushing lanes in all lanes. Look at it's only river vision. Like, you have control of the map right now.
Especially bot side. Yeah. Bot side vision is really good. But I guess this whole argument by Jarge plays into what Loco said, where Smoothie can't really move in. Like, as a support, if you're moving in alone, it's a really big mistake, because if you get caught, it's like really bad. And Smoothie basically either doesn't have the authority or the comfort to tell Meteos, come with me, let's go ward, even though it's probably the correct play. So yeah, I feel like that's why we don't see Smoothie going for deep invades, because he's never with someone else. You never see Meteos and Smoothie going together. That's a thing you see a lot of teams doing, and we talked about in previous episodes about jungle support synergy. But yeah, is there anything else that we want to talk about this specific issue, or shall we move on to clip 2?
Let's talk about top snowball and how C9 failed at it.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about this quite a lot. So we can get the first clip up, which is
1420.
1420. So
just tell me when I can roll.
Okay, so what we see is so let's look at the. Okay, so what we see here is actually we've skipped over a bit, but it's not super important. At about 11:55, what Impact does is as we spoke about earlier. So Impact gets a favorable trade on Cuvee, and he forces Cuvee to recall.
Yeah.
And then but what he's doing here is establishing the TP advantage. So this is really important. So one of the things we highlight is this is a huge part of one of C9's win conditions. So one of C9's win conditions is to keep Kennen in lane and stop Kennen from teleporting in bottom lane. Because what this does, if Jace has TP advantage, then this means that bot lane can play super YOLO, like super aggro, because the enemy bot lane cannot play aggro at all, because there's always that threat from the Jace TP. Now, but what C9 really wants to do is they really don't want Jace to TP at all, because what they want to do is they want to keep bullying this lane. So this is the chunk that happens, and then they look for the dive. The dive doesn't really happen, but they Kennen TP's back to lane, so that's great. So, what you want to do after this clip? So what we see here is, so keep this clip rolling. What we see here is Kennen TP's back to lane.
Mm-hmm.
So Impact pushes the lane in, and then he has the flash because Ambition chases him down, which kind of sucks, but it's not really that important.
But yeah, he got a bit too greedy.
Not really
there,
that
pushing the
important.
lane.
Yeah. Now,
I mean, I want to ask something.
we can pause.
Loco specifically, like, if you have a Jace top, do you want to coordinate a Cassio roam top with the Rek'Sai to be able to get that tower earlier?
No, I just want the fucking Rek'Sai to be there when I have a huge wave and I poke down Kennen and we can dive.
Yeah, or even help push after he backs. Like right here. This is like this guy has to. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
The only thing I want from Cassio, she doesn't even have to physically roam. You see that left side where they have the ward, pink ward?
Yeah.
Just fucking disappear. Like, just fucking stay the fuck out of vision. It's something that I don't see Jensen doing. Jensen's so ready to go on to the next wave. Like, he's positioning for the next wave. But just get the fuck out of the vision. Like, if you're out of the vision and Rek'Sai is moving up top side and Rek'Sai shows, like, you can still get your CS mid. But just be the fuck out of vision. And when my wave is, like, built up to dive top, like, you're out of vision, Rek'Sai coming top, then Kennen naturally has to back, and I can get the turret, or he's gonna stay and die.
Yeah,
but you create pressure just by going invisible.
Yeah, like a fake roam.
It's just they don't understand like what their actions cause the other side of the map to do, or what their action, like how it benefits other people on their team, or how it hurts other people on the team, or how it hurts the team overall. Like, it's very like just me. Like if I do this, how does it help me? If I do this, how does it hurt me? Like if you disappear from fucking vision, it really helps topside. Like, but if you stay in lane, you probably get to clear mid lane a little bit more efficiently, a little bit more faster. But like the trade-off is not even comparable, and it's so frustrating watching C9 sometimes. I think they're really good,
It
and
seems.
they're really bad.
Would you say that Jensen right now is where Bjorksen was like last year or 2 years ago?
Yeah, definitely, like pretty similar spots. And
Yeah.
it's really hard to be like, dude, like you're really great. Like it's really hard for a player to realize, because Jensen probably gets a lot of praise regarding his laning, and he does really well in lane, and he probably gets a lot of positive feedback and positive responses from how he plays mid lane right now. So it's really hard to break that cycle. Like if you're doing something that's like 80% correct, and that missing 20% is not allowing you to beat the best of the best, it's really hard for you to learn that when everyone's just like playing at a 70% level in your region.
I just wanted to mention here, when they forced the back from Cuvee, like I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure like what Meteos needs to do here is, like, unless he doesn't want to get spotted, but I don't think it really matters, is instead of backing here, he should go help Impact push this lane safely, so he can fully shove it in before the TP from Kennen finishes. Even though Kennen's not going to lose much because he teleports into turret, just fully push in the lane so you actually have time to grab all that experience, back off, and get it back to top lane without using TP. Because what happens is, like, you can't leave the lane here. I mean, you kind of can because Impact is a ranged laner, so he can break a freeze if a freeze happens. But if you push this in together with the Rek'Sai, you get more time to back off. You don't have to blow your flash. I know it's minor, but like, I think he should be helping the shove here.
I mean, I guess it's like a hindsight play. You know, you go, "Oh, this is a fuck up. This isn't a strategic flaw in their thinking. This is a fuck up." In my opinion, I think that Meteos was like, "Yeah, he's gonna get that to the tower before my recall finishes, so I'll be here to make sure if anything happens. If not, like he'll be back in time by the time I finish recalling." I think they just mistimed it by like 1 or 2 seconds, which happens sometimes.
Yeah. Okay.
Like there's more really serious flaws in the way they approach the top lane strategy in this game that I want to cover. That I don't think that's too big a deal compared to what they end up doing later. That's not too big a deal. So anyway, I want to continue finishing. I want to finish talking about what happens in this specific instance of this. So what's really important here is that Cuvee bans TP. Now, if I was Impact, you've got 2 choices here. So if you look at where the wave is, you can pause until Impact recalls. In fact, just let it play. Just let it play. I'll talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, so Impact like has the flash, which sucks, but doesn't really change much. So Impact recalls, and then he has 2 choices here. He can hold his TP and walk back to lane, or he can TP back to lane and really go ham on this tower.
Sorry about my phone, guys, if you can hear it.
No worries.
It's fine.
Now, I think what you can do is, because, you can just like walk back to lane. So he chooses to walk back to lane because the wave's not pushing, so it's not so bad. Yeah? So go on, Lessa.
Just want to point out real quick, like this is a good thing for what Jensen and Meteos did, like invading the enemy jungle, and I think they saw Skarner up top.
Yeah.
They used their lane pressure to do something. They should have done this so much more, but I think this is the only time they did it, even like in this series.
I just wanted to mention something real quick, which is it's pretty basic as well. But in this scenario right here, after you see Meteos steal the jungle camp, this whole movement from the Samsung bot lane is really good, and while it's not like super like advanced, it's something I don't see every team doing, which is like when something happens on the other side of the map, your side needs to play defensive. And this is pretty basic, but you see teams still fail this, right? So if Skarner just ganked top, it means that like Skarner's top, we don't have pressure bot lane.
Watch for the mirror play. Watch for the fucking mirror play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It seems really simple, right?
Analyst, it happens so much.
It happens so much.
Your hair
And the players know too, like after this kind of thing happens in scrims, like you sit down and then you're like, Loco, don't even talk to me. I know what you're gonna say. Watch for the mirror play. I fucking know. Like we can move on. Like we don't even have to talk about this. I'm like, okay, but if it happens next time, we're gonna have to go over it. And they're like, okay. And then it happens next time, and then they're just like, call scrims, guys.
Yeah,
Tomorrow.
but
Alright, peace, guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Make sure you're back by noon, okay?
but see what Samsung does here, right? They steal Gromp. They know they were spotted by wolves. I think they saw Meteos walk into their jungle. What they do is simply, instead of greeting and staying at turret, because they know, like, first off, they don't have TP they have TP disadvantage, so this can become like a 4v2, even a 5v2 really quick, right? So what they do is that they just back off, and if you look at minimap, they just sit there at tier 2. And they're like, whatever, we're yielding pressure. This is how a good team plays the game.
This is how you play when you can see the entire map and you know
Exactly.
like you're in sync with your teammates. But if you're not in sync with your teammates, then you're just like, why the fuck isn't my jungler here? Like, well, of course, because your jungler's fucking making plays on top side. They got more out of top side. Then you're like, okay, that makes sense. But I'm fucking dead because I stayed on the turret with 4 people coming to dive my fucking ass.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it seems really basic, but I wanted to highlight because I think that this is something we haven't seen teams do enough.
Yeah, it's really important.
So you want to do, George, you want to talk about 1420, right? I have
Yeah, let's go to point 20. Just pause because I wanna set the scene.
Okay.
It's really important that I set the scene.
Okay.
Give it to me.
Give it to
So-
us.
1420. So Meteos is already pathing towards top side, and so we could just play the clip. Can you run it at like normal speed?
Yep.
Okay, so we can just play the clip. So Meteos is already pathing towards top side. So what we see here is that Impact gets another chunk on Cuvee, and so Meteos. So at this point, pause. Just pause right here. So right here we see. Meteos is already pathing towards top side. The call should be get Meteos in that lane right now. Cuvee doesn't have TP. They can take the tower here, or they can like force them to have him get the tower really, really low, which allows Impact to take the tower on like the next wave or the wave after or whatever. But basically this tower is really low and Cuvee's got to walk back to lane. So all they have to do is just stop Ambition, like clearing this wave, and all the so Rex. But the first priority is just like looking for that dive. So they see that Cuvee is really low, doesn't have TP, Impact's full HP, Meteos is full HP, you know, they've Meteos has got flash, so there's a really good opportunity to dive here. So the first call you should make is like get Meteos into the tunnel and look for the dive. So this is what they do. So you can play the clip. Right, so they don't get the dive, so that's fine. So what they do is he just like chunks this tower, and then he looks to push in the next wave, which is you know the right decision. Now, just pause here. It's really important that we highlight this is a fucking cannon wave, and what we see is that Ambition's going to walk up and start clearing this wave.
Yeah.
So you can play again. Now, right here. If I was in charge of this, if this was a scrim and I was in charge of this team, I'd have been like going really ham at Meteos, because what you want to do is just fucking get Meteos into that lane. You could look at this HP of this tower. This is the cannon wave. You got 2 people. Ambition, Ambition has no flash because he just used it in mid lane. So you know there's no threat to Impact at all. So he could just stay ranged. Like if worst comes to the worst, Meteos can just knock him up and then walk out of tower range. There's no kill threat on C9 here. Like I don't know. Like, what do you guys think?
You're letting
full tank.
You're letting Ambition get a full wave, which is like jungler paradise. Is when you're playing jungle and you're lane backs and you get to get a full wave. Because like if you go back a few seconds, Meteos actually spots Ambition. He actually pings him here, so he could even just keep him zoned off of tower for Impact to get the turret. I feel or anything just for him to lose the CS, so no one gets it.
Yeah.
And Castiel could have gone missing again here. Like
there's
another
there's so many ways.
I feel like the tower should have been done so by like 15 minutes. Like it should be gone.
Yeah. Do you want to add something, Loco?
So overall, I do think like we're bringing up good points about like individual stuff that they can do better, individual aspects where they can improve a lot, and like just. But when there's like this huge fundamental part of the game that's missing for C9 and a lot of the NA teams, like we can play this set over and over again. I would think Samsung wins like 90% of the time, 95% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
The core problem is, we can just sum up the core problem as Samsung knows how to play as a team and they know how to sacrifice to make sure the rest of the team gets ahead, and C9 doesn't. And then it applies for all the situations that we brought up.
Yeah. Yep. One last thing to add to like sum up this like what we've been talking about. When C9, we're not going to show the clip, but when C9 finally gets that top tower, they only do it in reaction to when Samsung get first blood bottom, and Samsung was pushing up really hard to get that bot tower, and that's the first time Casio like goes missing and walks towards top side. They didn't even really need her at that point, because Jace and Rek'Sai was already pushed off the low HP cannon. But it's just like, it basically sums up like most of these NA teams really don't think 2 steps ahead. They're a lot more reactionary or rely a lot more on individual app play in lane, or like kind of like predictable ganks to win games.
Okay, so I think we hammered a bit too much on this first top lane turret enough. So the other play that is pretty big in this game is an extended play actually from 2350. George, I'm gonna let you lead because I think you wanted to talk about this one.
I mean, my bit's only from like 25 minutes, but I can.
Oh, okay. So to give context,
this is basically where C9 starts losing pressure on the map, because here they were still kind of leading. Like they had 2 dragons already, but they end up losing the 3rd dragon.
Yeah, I wanted to mention.
Actually.
I wanted to mention that C9 gets a bit unlucky with dragons here. Honestly, like they're playing the control game pretty well, and like sure, Ocean Drakes are good for laning, but imagine if this, like, you have a Cassiopeia on your team. Imagine if this is 1 or 2 mountains. It's like pretty huge if this is a mountain, for example.
I mean, yeah. At the same time, I feel like maybe they shouldn't have prioritized early dragons and played more towards top side.
They could have done both, in my opinion. If they were a good team, they could have done both.
Yeah.
Like, there were so many opportunities to take the top tower without ever giving up dragon control.
We have an extra guest here who I couldn't see well. And Loco's muted, I think.
Oh, it's...
No, it's fine now.
It's like a talk show. Cool. I'm advertising a war room right now. What up, guys?
Nice.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Can you go a bit back and like let's see why doesn't C9 get this dragon?
Ooh, I don't have before this actually.
Oh, we don't? Rip.
I mean, I do have it here.
Big mini map.
Yeah.
I mean,
what's the timer? Is it
2350?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
so here, this is what you want.
Yeah. So basically, like, let's play. Like here. Actually, can you go just a bit behind, because I want to show like when they had mid and bottom pushed up, and yeah. So here they have mid and bottom pushed up. Caitlyn has to deal with that wave. Oriana and I think Kennen were dealing with the mid wave. I feel like you should. I don't know. Okay, so I'll ask you guys this: like, do they go for the dragon here, or is it too risky because of the Kennen?
Oh shit! So, can you actually go back on this? This is like a huge fucking point. Go back.
Yeah.
Okay, like what?
Go back.
What time more?
Go back like 20 seconds. Let me narrate. Let me narrate this clip. This is fucking important, and this is why C9
Okay, here.
doesn't win.
Educators Loco.
Okay.
Is here good?
So, yeah, there's perfect. I'll tell you, C9 in this position can take this dragon 1000%. Okay, go back 10 seconds more. 10 seconds more.
Okay.
Okay.
You know there's hotkeys for this, by the way.
Okay, so you know how we talk about as a range comp, it's really hard to contest for vision. But one thing that C9 has going for them right now is they're up on tempo and they're up on vision. If you look at bottom, it's in a neutral state, and C9's bottom already moved. And if you look at the dragon area, C9 already has all the vision, right? So they're in a better position to take dragon. And one thing that range comps like this is extremely good at is they can fuck people up in the choke, and they can deny small chokes really easily. So that choke between blue and mid and river, that small choke, Nami, Cassio, and Jace can deny all those chokes really well. So if they position for dragon and they start dragon and they deny the chokes, they're in a really favorable spot. So play this one. Just play at a regular speed. Okay, so pause here. What's Ori doing?
Ori's going behind through the choke, like the small area of the jungle, and I think she's trying to move up for vision.
Yeah, she's contesting and she's fighting for vision. What's Jensen doing?
Jensen is prepping for the next wave, dude.
My creep wave.
Okay, so play this onward, play onward, and really look at that small choke and what they could have done.
Okay,
So
so
this small choke, where
yeah.
Ambition is clearing this vision, and then he makes it out towards the choke, like, and then they're in an even space. C9 lost all control they had. They lost literally every single everything they had going for them to be able to contest this dragon and to be able to zone people out and take a favorable positioning for a team fight. They gave all that up so Jensen could fucking touch the wave first. Play this onward.
No,
I'm not even joking. That's the truth of the situation.
true.
Oriana moved and Jensen didn't.
and like if you notice also before this, Smoothie was helping Meteos to scuttle because one person is not enough. So we play.
Jensen's on the wave. They gave up vision. They gave up
Yep.
dragon side control, and then now Kennen goes to clear the wave, and then
So now
they're
push
not
it
gonna
again.
get. They're not
Okay.
gonna get anything. So
Yeah, they push it again and they still don't do anything with it.
yeah. Oh god.
Yeah,
Like so this is a problem. NA teams can put themselves in favorable positions by having better laning and by just being better individually sometimes. But even when they have all the tools to like turn that into an objective, they're just like, nope, CS time, boys. Nope, jungle camp time, boys. Nope, there's a wave bottom, boys. Like, so this is why
Oh,
NA
oh.
teams can't be Koreans because they can't make those sacrifices.
Don't forget the X amount of gold till my next item.
Yeah.
Let's wait for my R
Oh,
spike.
don't even get me started on like people like not backing because they have got just one more wave to my
One
auto
more
spike,
wave,
guys.
one more wave, and then
One
I'll
more
have
wave.
I'll have voice staff, and then we'll win the dragon fight. There is no fucking dragon fight. You backed, and then they took dragon.
Yep.
Like,
I,
god
yeah.
damn, NA.
I can 100% confirm that this is an accurate representation of how NA teams play.
Yeah, so this becomes a 50-50 contest instead of a situation where
They could have
C9
slowly choked them out of vision, and then they pushed them back and
Yeah.
had control, and then like been in a situation where they have 3 dragons, 2 water
Yes.
dragons, 1 fire dragon. Like, oh god, C9, like please, like you're so good and so bad at the same time.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I mean, and now like let's just keep playing until it gets into what Jarge wants to talk about, and just see like
Yeah.
how everyone resets.
Yeah,
so yeah,
this is
just
after.
play.
So this is the fight after the dragon. Samson got the dragon. Everyone survives. Oh,
I wanna take
Resetting.
it's worth mentioning.
I want you guys to pay attention to waves in top, mid, and bottom.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning that before the dragon play, Caitlyn Ruler went bot lane and pushed it in. So now the wave is crashing on C9's turret. So it's all really good management by Samsung.
Do you notice how Ruler grouped up first, got control, and then went back to the wave instead of just fucking staying bot the whole time and pushing it out?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mhm.
holy shit. Like, oh god, like plays like this is what's like separating NA and Korea. It's not like Korean players are just so better individually. I
Yeah.
honestly don't think so. Like, we caught up in
course.
terms of mechanics like so much.
Loco,
Yeah.
did you know that in between each minion wave, there's 30 seconds that you can do shit? Because NA players don't.
You use those 30 seconds to position better for the next wave.
Christ. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll keep playing
Also,
this.
also realize that Samsung backed first, and like Nami is not just now. Okay, now I thought she was gonna back. Now she's gonna back. She like stopped back 3 times or something.
Just the priority on these players and these teams are
And now look
completely
at
different.
Jace now. Look at Jace now going top, and then he's like, "Oops, no, Jin wants that. I'll go mid." Even though Cassio can catch that mid wave.
No, I have hope for NA though. I think coaches and analysts are smart enough, and then once they get more mature and they have better coaching tools, and they're able to teach players better, and they're able to reach players better, they'll be able to teach these players like how to play on a Korean level, and players are going to be able to willingly accept it, and the players that aren't able to willingly accept it and improve, they're going to slowly get weeded out. I think it's slowly happening, and coaches are getting better, players are getting better, coaches are getting better at teaching players, and players that aren't willing to learn are getting slowly weeded out. So NA is at least headed in the right direction. Like, I don't think like people should be fucking depressed because they're like, oh my god, like fuck, like 3 Korean teams in semis, like fuck, like no one did shit, like only C9 made it out of group and they got shot on. Yes, we did get shot on, but the gap is actually closing.
Okay. So I'm gonna let George lead into this. This is the one he really wants to go in on. And if
Yeah.
this is, as you saw, after the teams both reset and Samsung sent their bot lane to top lane to take this turn. So George.
Okay, so I want to set the scene a bit. Right. So let's look at first of all, let's look at the items. So I just want to highlight Jace versus Cannon. So Jace is on a huge power spike right now. He's got 2 completed items and he's got Mercury Treads. And then look at what Cannon's got. He's got a Hextech, a Proto Belt, and he's got like pieces of Azonias. So first of all, Cannon's building for team fights and Jace is building for mostly for the 1v1. Like he's got like a lot of magic resist, but he's gonna do a lot of damage. Basically, the point is that like, right now Jace shits on Kennen. Jace has been shitting on Kennen the whole game, and right now it's like the biggest point where Jace is gonna shit on Kennen the most at any point in this game. Like Jace absolutely fucking dumps his Kennen. So what is C9's win condition right here is to isolate that lane. Now let's talk about. So one of the things we speak about sometimes in War Room is we talk about how like bad teams skip the steps. So one of the things I'm going to talk about with you guys today, and pay attention because this is really important, is I'm going to explain what the steps are. So to isolate a lane, and this applies to any kind of split pushing. So first thing you want to do is you want to stabilize the other side of the map. That's the first thing you do. What you want to do, the ideal position to have a split pusher in is to force the jungler to make one of 2 poor decisions. The first one is to group with this team and create a 4, which is why you call it a 4-1. As you need the jungler to group with you, and to be part as a 4, so the enemy 4 can't pressure out your 3. Now what happens is Jace is going to have pressure on the Kennen, which means that all C9 has to do is just play super fucking safe on the top side of the map. That's all they have to do. All they have to do is just stabilize that side of the map and do nothing. All they have to do is just put themselves in a position so where if at any point Ambition or Crown goes towards the bottom side of the map to relieve the unholy amount of pressure that Impact is going to put on Cuvee right now.
Unholy.
Yeah,
Unholy.
this guy's going to fucking pound him into the ground with this matchup right here. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, this is going to be, it's like unreal levels of shit, right? So all C9 has to do is just make sure that if at any point Samsung Galaxy sends anybody down to the bottom side, they can just take all control of the top side of the map. Because even if Kennen TP's in, at best it's a 4v5 because Jace follows. Okay, so let's play the clip. I'm going to kind of talk us through this, and then we can pause about a minute later. So the first thing C9 wants to do is they want to deal with this big wave that's pushing on their tower. So they do that. So they clear this wave, and this is all well and good. And they're just clearing this wave, and Jace is not pushing past his vision line, which is really important. He's making sure that he's safe. He doesn't want to get ganked because Orianna moves off the map for a second, but and they're not 100% sure where Ambition is. So they see Ambition in river, and they see Orianna. She's back in lane, and then they see Kennen. So this is all well and good, and then all C9's bottom lane wants to do is just stabilize this wave and put the wave into a neutral position. So Samsung Galaxy taking control of the river here, but we can pause here just quickly. It's really important that C9 don't panic here, because it doesn't really matter if Samsung Galaxy takes control of the river, because they can't really bait Baron, because they can't take the Baron with 4 people here with the amount of poke that C9 has, and they've got like 2 blue trinkets, they've got 4 pink set up right here. There's no real way, like there's no threat of Baron here. Like C9's at no risk, and they can poke because they've got two Ocean Dragons, which I don't think Ocean Dragon's very good. I think it's pretty shit actually. But the point is that there is no threat of the Baron here, so C9 don't have to panic. Now we can keep going and then pause it at 25:56, as I said.
I just wanted to say that the Ocean Dragon is also known as the Liquid Dragon because it's the 4th best. So funny.
XD memes. Okay, let's carry on. All right, so yeah. C9 basically just trying to stabilize top side of the map. Jens is just clearing waves. It's really important they don't push past their towers and do anything risky. Now we see here, Ambition and Crown start looking to make a play on bot side, but this is communicated to Jace, who to Impact, and he backs off. So pause.
Yep.
Sorry. Right. Okay. This is the really important bit. So C9 get priority in the top wave, so they push this out, which means that Ruler has to catch this wave. Now, this is a huge opportunity for C9. So there are certain steps that you need to take to secure Baron Vision, which in turn gives you forces Ambition to be on the top side of the map, which gives freedom for Jace to 1v1 the Kennen, because if at any point he goes bot to deal with the Jace, you can force the Baron here. There is, given the amount of zone control that C9 has, there is no way that Samsung Galaxy can get in onto C9 unless Kennen gets a flag. So it's really important here that C9 take the appropriate steps to set up for Baron. Now, what are these appropriate steps? It's really important that we talk about this. So the first step you do is you always deal with any potential flank wards. So let's look at C9's items. They've got 2 sweepers. They've got 2 pinks left. Smoothest sweeper is up right here, which means what they should be doing is they should be looking to check inside their jungle to make sure all the wards are cleared out. The way you set up Baron is compromised by a series of steps. So the first step is to clear out the vision that's behind you. So depending on where you're setting up, so if you're looking to set up in river, you want to clear out the vision inside your jungle. Then what you do is you keep pushing the waves out, and you go back, and then you clear vision in the river, and then you push the waves out, and then you clear vision inside their jungle, and then you start putting down pinks. And you may need to recall while you're doing this, but in that time, what you want to do is just make sure you have enough control on the top side of the map so that K-Impact is forced to 1v1 the Kennen. You don't have to take any risks at this point, and you can take it slow. But the whole point is that what you want to do is just not take any risks on the top side. The ideal point you want to get to is where you have vision inside the top river, and that's what gives Jace the freedom to 1v1 the Kennen. But what we see, you can carry on. What do we see happen? C9 skips the steps, and this is the major problem they do. Pause right here. Pause.
Yeah, it's paused.
Okay, can you play like 1 second or 2 seconds? Okay, so what's wrong with this picture right here? Fucking Meteos has decided that he doesn't need to deal with the vision inside his jungle. He actually wants deep vision. Because this is such a greedy decision from C9. And I'm not gonna put this on Meteos because this is a fucking team decision. The team should be like, what the fuck are you doing, Meteos? You need to start getting inside the jungle and making sure that we can't do anything. Jace is fucking recalling in the bottom side of the map. Kennen has full freedom to do whatever the fuck he wants.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, George, I want to ask regarding, you said the first step is clearing the vision regarding the flank wars, right?
Yeah.
How would they clear that vision?
They
go back and red trinket and sweep their inner parts?
The point at which they do it is once they've pushed the top wave out. So as when we paused.
Let me go back a bit.
Yeah, when they push the top wave out, at this point, Ruler has to catch the wave. This is the opportunity where you go inside your jungle and you sweep. Because you know that
they were there before.
Samsung Galaxy aren't in river ready to push you off the wave, which means you can go inside your jungle, clear the vision, and be back in time before. All they want to do is just protect that top lane tier 1. What Samsung Galaxy wants to do is try and get that top lane tier 1, but they have enough pressure in that lane to neutralize that. And also all they want to do is they just want to be neutral. They want to be 50-50 in the top side of the map. So as soon as this wave gets pushed out at this point, 25-58, this is the opportunity for C9 to get inside their jungle and use the sweepers that they have to clear the vision out. They've got pinks, they've got sweepers, they should be clearing all the wards. The priority is not deep wards, the priority is not river wards, the priority is clearing out the flank wards, because the only way, Samsung Galaxy has one win condition right here, and that's getting Kennen behind them. Because if this game just stalemates at this point, the lead that Impact can get over Cuvee is greater than the lead that Samsung Galaxy can get their 4-man versus C9's 4-man.
I actually, I guess I sort of want to disagree. So
Yeah,
what
kind of.
the vision where they have on their race side, the Samsung Galaxy race side, where Samsung has one ward near the red, and I do agree there's hella deep vision for Samsung on the blue side of the jungle.
Sure.
So I'm thinking top side and the top wave, and clearing out the vision behind them isn't that important. And what I would like to see them do more is do something once they have that top side push, why can't they just send 4 people mid and get vision around the race side, the enemy race side, and slightly on the right, and play towards to siege mid and pressure mid and take the first mid turret, and then control Baron vision, and then always make sure you have mid side control first. So basically here I would run a 4 people mid and 1 person bot with Jace and force them to show multiple people mid. And if they're not moving multiple people mid, then you're just going to get mid turret and you're able to force Ori off, and they're in a situation where they have to come into you. But if you go the other route regarding clearing out the enemy vision, it's not like a proactive step that they're taking. It's a setup step that they're taking to make a proactive play later. But I think they're in a position to make the proactive play and play for the mid turret, which is a really, really huge part of the game. And opening up the map is probably more important to them than going straight into Baron
Oh
control.
yeah. I'm not saying that they need to go into Baron. What I'm saying is that like if they're going to be looking to set up on the top side of the map, then this is like one of the things that they should be doing. But yeah, you're right. Like 100%, they could be looking to take mid control instead. But like the point I want to make is that if they're going to be setting up inside the river,
Yeah. Okay.
one of the things they have to be doing is clearing out the vision inside their jungle. That has to be a priority because we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the mistake is.
Samsung punishes
I feel like
them.
the mistake is why are they bunching up as 4 in the river at this point? Because it feels like there's, like you can't do Baron, and you can't bait.
You can't do Baron. But what they want to do is isolate the top side of the map. And if you need to like take the mid turret to do that, then that's fine. Yeah, 100% you can do that. But like the C9's, the way C9 wants to win this game is by isolating the Jay's Kennen lane.
Yeah, sure, but like, if I actually agree with Loco here in the sense that like, taking mid tier 1 opens up the map so much. It lets you do so much more in terms of vision. So even if you trade mid tier 1 for top tier 1, I think it's worth it for like let's say Samsung like ignore that you group mid and they fast push top lane with Caitlyn and they take that top lane turret. I still think it's worth it for C9 because they open up the map so much, you know. So I can see Loco's point here, and the other point is that like those wards that are in top river, top side jungle are eventually going to run out after you siege mid. So, yeah. But I do get your point of isolating the matchup. I think that's very important. But maybe it's a bit too early for Dragon because they don't have
I'm not saying like they should be looking to take Baron. I'm not saying they should be looking to set a vision for Baron. What I'm saying is that they need to be they should be looking to isolate the bottom lane. And you know, there's multiple ways of doing that. You know, they can set up in the river or they can like go mid. But this should be their ultimate win condition for this game. This is the only way that C9 win this game. They can't out team fight Samsung Galaxy. They can look to siege, but even if they look to siege, they still have to clear out the flank wards because that's the way that Samsung Galaxy breaks the siege. You know, so it's really important they control the vision inside their jungle.
I 100% agree regarding isolating bottom lane, but there's multiple avenues they can take to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Anyway, we can carry on with this clip because I want to show what happens when you skip the steps and you go too greedy for this like deep vision. Which is
like
what
they skip the
does.
steps and then they're bunching. Like I don't know why they bunched here.
Yeah.
It's a weird decision.
So Kennen goes back. And they were like sat in river trying to just like contest river vision and contest like the top side of the map. Because what they're trying to do here is they're trying to like take control of the Baron area and then
they're just team play is so half-assed and then it's like so like random. It's like, hey, oh yeah, guys, I learned about like I think warding is important. Like we should try to ward right now. I think. Okay, everyone group up. Let's get wards. Okay, now what?
Yeah, it's. And then just look what happens. I mean, this speaks for itself. We don't have to talk.
And then Cuvee just said, "I must seize it."
Yeah, Cuvee must seize this. And then, it's just. It's
the worst part
so sad. Like,
if they just go and play for mid instead of this bullshit, like they don't even get flanked.
Yeah. I mean, like even that, like you could just. I mean, they don't 100% know that there's no vision inside that bot side jungle. I guess maybe they do. I'd have to go back and check. But
they don't because like Ori and Skarner were making some moves towards bot like once or twice. So when they postured, so they could have warded.
Yeah.
But like I feel like when you want to set up for Baron against a team comp like this, I think it's really important if you can guarantee top teleport advantage first, or just at least if both teleports can be down, but as long as Kennen's teleport is down. That's what you should aim for if you want to set up a Baron, because it just limits him so much. But yeah, I think we talked about this game enough, and we should probably move on to game 3 because this is getting.
I'm done with C9 from this game.
Aren't you done with C9 overall?
Yeah, I'm done with C9. Well, I'm done with this iteration of C9 because I mean, honestly, like it's such a free win. When Jay shits on Kennen that hard, that's such a free win. Yeah. I mean, it's such a huge power spike. It just makes me so sad that they just like ignore Impact. Impact does so much work in this series, and he gets fucked. And like, he fucks up in the first game getting solo killed, but he does so much work getting this lead, and C9 just do nothing with it, and it's so sad to watch.
That's the story of C9 right now.
Yeah, I think for game 3. We saw a lot of the same elements. I just want to touch on draft again. I thought that C9's draft was good. Now that I look at in hindsight, I think so. Why I thought it was good was because
Wait, you thought that Zach was good here?
yeah, wait.
Exactly. Okay.
I actually I don't think the Zach is okay. What I liked was the Jace into Poppy. He's gonna amount that 30 CS lead. He's gonna have lane pressure again. You know, this is gonna be third game in a row where he's gonna have pressure. Bottom lane this time, there's no way, no matter what they do, they can't. There's no way they screw up this lane. It's like super dominant. Core and Drooler are gonna be under their tower like 24/7. They can probably get the tower at like 7 minutes, and I think they did that. But then I realized that later on, like once the game started, is that why the hell do they have a Zac? Because you have pushing lanes, top and bottom, and then mid is like sort of to Cassio's advantage. But either way, you have a lot of pressure on the map early on. So why pick Zac, who isn't really that mobile and can't really punish Olaf? I'm sure they want engage, but the way you set up you set up this draft already in a way that you want to win from lane.
Which jungle do you take instead of Zac?
I mean, I feel like since Olaf is taken out of the picture, you have to take Rek'Sai, even though it's kind of bad versus Olaf.
Okay, so say you take Rek'Sai
still
here, right? I 100% agree with you regarding like all the laning stuff. Like they have good lanes. They're gonna win lanes. Bot lane, they're gonna win lane. Top lane.
Yeah.
Mid lane, they counterpicked also. So I would imagine Ori beats Cassio.
Given the way it played out, it's clear that Jensen can play this matchup and win it.
Yeah.
Okay, so they have all three winning lanes. But the problem is, like, say they are able to snowball off of leads, and this would be a perfectly fine draft. But we know C9's not that kind of a team, and they're not just gonna snowball off the leads they get. Once it gets to mid game, they can't deal with Olaf, Sivir, Poppy. Like, both Ori and Caitlyn are just gonna Caitlyn, Jace, all three are gonna get eaten, like alive. Like in a team fight, like Olaf, Sivir, Poppy turns on their ult and they fucking rush at you. What are you doing? Like, you just die.
Okay, but like the problem I have with Zac here is like, you're picking Zac into Poppy, who can cancel with Stefan's presence, and you're picking it into Sivir, who has a spell shield, and you're picking it into Tahm Kench, who can devour whoever's coming in, devour Cassio or devour Sivir, and just like avoid them. Because like, even though like with elastic slingshot, if you get close, that's good. But like the base damage on elastic slingshot is huge. It's like the base damage on that is like, it's so key for Zac to be able to land that on a target, because it really lets you go for kills and win skirmishes. So like I don't know. I feel like the Zac just gets cancelled out too much by Samsung's comp here. And it's worth mentioning that draft-wise, what C9 do here is they actually left jungle for last rotation. They actually draft. They actually show like Orianna J's second rotation, which is a bit weird. I think like they could do Orianna jungler and leave the top lane pick for last.
Yeah. So like two things I want to say. So I think like if you take out like the names of the teams, Samsung and C9, you're like, okay, if these two teams are equal in level, team on red side can win this game. They can maybe win this game just from laning phase and getting a huge lead. But once you put the nameplates back on, you'll be like, I don't think C9 can get a huge lead from lane that will allow Samsung to, will allow them to snowball over Samsung. And Samsung are on some comfort champions, and that's gonna hurt C9 a lot. So and the other thing I wanted to mention was that I read in the same interview that Medius had with the score, he said that C9 actually wanted to pick Poppy in the second rotation. They were like undecided between Jace and Poppy. They ended up going with the Jace. So that's like something interesting to note.
Okay, I'll let Loco respond first.
Yeah. You guys go first. Like, people on the side that's gonna defend the picks for C9 go first, and then I'll rebuttal.
Okay, so I want to advocate a second for the Zac pick. I think you're looking too deep into the Zach pick about how like it scales into like mid game and it doesn't really do anything versus like the champions on that team. Honest to God, I think they, based on what I saw, I think they just purely picked the Zach to try and help mid lane win. Because they have winning lanes with the 2 lanes, and Zach secures the mid lane win, which gives them 3 winning lanes. I think that's literally it.
That's something I mentioned yesterday.
Yeah. I think as well, like most of the reason I kind of want to address Shakarez's point about why jungle was the last pick. The reason for that is again, I wasn't 100%, I wasn't aware of this interview, but based on my interpretation of this draft, the reason they did so they first rotation the K comma. So obviously this is just a power pick rotation, and they just want to pick like the strongest bottom lane they can. And then in the second rotation they pick the Orianna because it's a counter pick to Cassiopeia, so you can safely pick your mid lane here with freely just like pick it for comp and get the counter pick at the same time. But the reason they pick Jace is because it's a winning lane, so they've already got a winning top. So they got a winning bot lane in the first rotation, and in the second rotation they secure winning mid and top. So all they need to do is just make sure that the mid lane doesn't get skewed by the jungler pickup. So it doesn't get skewed by any of the factors, which is why they save the jungle for last pick. It's not that they're saving the jungler, it's that they wanted to secure the power picks earlier in the draft. That's the reason they picked jungler last, at least in my interpretation of this.
Yeah, I would also like to say, like, the only reason I defend this draft is because I feel like C9 went into this game, this series with the mentality that we need to win from lanes, or else we're gonna get dicked if we give them the all the lane pressure.
I don't think that's a bad strategy because you've seen Samsung Galaxy is a great mid game team, and I wouldn't rely on my macro if I was C9. I would honest to God, this would be the strategy I'd choose if I was C9. Like, you don't have the mid game. Like, they're not stupid. They're self-aware. They understand that they have weaknesses in the mid game, and they understand that they are not as good as Samsung Galaxy. So you have to just pick something and just roll with it. Like, why not go for a win lane, win game strategy? I mean, how else are you going to win?
Okay, let Loco respond. I want to hear the other side.
Okay. Let's go under the assumption like that's the strategy. We need to win lane for us to be able to win this game.
Sure.
So you're gonna make it really easy for you to win lane, but you're getting these leads anyways, and then you have these leads. But mid game, it's extremely hard for you to win with the lead with this kind of comp. This kind of comp is so fucking hard to play. Like, priority comps with low CC, low engage, and a lot of range champions is so fucking hard to converge into leads. So if you look at like the whole picture, like the entirety of it, yes, you're gonna win lane, but you're not gonna win the game. Like, you have a still very, very low chance of winning the game from winning the lane. I would much prefer like they take a comp that's easier to run, with a lot of CC, with a lot of die potential, very easy to convert leads, very easy to just force objectives or force fight, and still like run a comp that's very win lane. So where I would take the CC and where I would take the engage is top lane. I think what they should have done.
Gnar pick?
Be it Gnar, be it Poppy, and then also for jungle, I would want my jungle to be engage heavy. So I mean, outside of Olaf, one thing I would have done is changed up the ban. I would have banned Victor, Nidalee, Olaf, and then split Jhin and Caitlyn.
Okay, I can see that.
So,
and we don't even know if Samsung would have first picked Jhin here, because it seems like they like Olaf.
If they first pick Jhin, then you pick Kate, and that's not bad at
fine,
all. That's fine. Sneaky would much prefer to be on Jhin, but this kind of draft and that kind of strategy, like, there's no return in terms of mid game. Like, you got through early game, like you patched up holes by sacrificing your mid and late game. You sacrificed your weakness to help like where you're the strongest. So you're in even a worse spot mid game. So
I mean, you could say they're doubling down on their strengths, but I don't think is like the worst strategy. I mean, I agree with like everything you're saying. Nothing you're saying is wrong, but I can see their thought process. They're doubling down on their strengths. They're trying really hard to just go in on what they perceive, or at least what I think they perceive to be like the only way they can win.
Mm-hmm.
So, because League of Legends and all MOBAs are they're very perspective and nothing solid and everything's gray area. It's more of who's
100%.
more right. I think like just that strategy will not have returns on the world stage. Like, let's all pick for lane, and that's how we're gonna win. And they have like fucking such veterans on their team: Meteor, Sneaky, Impact, Reaper. They've all been playing this game or working in the competitive scene for 5+ years. Like, someone on their org should have been able to be like, this is a bad idea. We need to make sure we have some kind of CC. We're not just gonna be able to play mid game.
I mean, we have a C9 analyst in our Twitch chat who was criticizing this draft, so maybe he should have had more input then.
Oh shit!
Who's the
He
C9
didn't have it.
analyst?
Implying
it's
any
Kami.
analyst on any team has any influence on the team at all.
Yeah.
In any team.
No, it's Kami,
Yeah.
and he works with the challenger team mainly.
No, he works for both.
Yeah, he works for both, but right now he was. I know he was
But
working with the challenger team.
He's a remote analyst,
Yeah.
but they also have ThinkCard on staff with them
Oh
as well.
wow, they have ThinkCard. I'm sure he was gonna be like, "Yo guys, let's not do this," and then everyone's like, "Oh guys, ThinkCard told us not to do this. We should really listen." Like, that's not how it works. It has to be head coach or star player or owner. Those three roles have the most control on a team: head coach, star player,
Yeah.
and owner. And
Who's
it's like
the
a trinity.
star player though? Because I mean, you could argue the star player is like Impact, but like I mean, we've seen that like he
The
has
both-
enough communication. So like,
Maybe not the star player, but the most vocal player. Most vocal player, the owner, and the head coach has the most control over a team.
it's going to be
So-
Meteos, which means you're going to want for the good laning phase because he can really easily play for KDA in the mid game, so it doesn't look like he's so bad. But in the laning
that's-
phase, he can. I'm
That's
just,
why
I'm
you have
just
a
memeing at
trinity
this
of
point.
decision makers. That's why you have a
Yeah.
trinity of decision makers. That's why
Yeah.
head coach and owner should be able to be like, "Yo, this is stupid. We can't do this." So I mean, yeah, like this
Yeah.
game was over from draft. We
Yeah,
talked
I,
about
I agree with what you said, like everything you said. Like, and when you look at the whole picture and saying like C9 and foregoing mid game and late game just to win lane was a bad idea.
when you talked about covering up the names and comparing the draft. If you covered up the names and compared the draft, my analysis would be right side has to be better team, and they have to have right side team has to be Korean, and left side team has to be non-Korean for this draft to work. That would have been the answer.
All right, yeah, I agree there. Yeah, and we don't really need to watch this game. I think
Yeah, this
basically
game was-
everything we talked about ended up happening in the game, and
Yeah.
Samsung just outscaled. C9 didn't have a perfect laning phase. They didn't get that 5k gold lead that a team like SKT would have with this comp.
They needed
Uh,
3 towers by
Samsung
15 minutes.
just
they needed
outscaled.
all 3 outer towers by 15 minutes to win this game. That was the only way they can win. Is if
Alright,
they
so-
and they actually were on track for a bit, and then Ambition just ran over them.
I want to ask you guys regarding like
Yeah.
a Twitter thing that we had yesterday.
Mhm.
Jesiz
Sure.
playing again. Do you think there's merit like to Jesiz playing again if he can get challenger in Korea and maintain it? Do you
So-
think?
Oh, Jesiz?
Jesiz,
yeah.
You're talking about the fact that he got challenger in Korean solo queue playing support. Was he support only, or did he off roll at any point?
He was
Support
mostly.
only, and he duoed with
Yeah.
Rainover.
Yeah, I think
And-
100%.
And he do it by ADC.
Yeah, he
Hans.
do it with Hans.
Okay, so I think that I would like to see him see if he can do it, see if he can pull it off solo. But we've seen that even like the greatest supports in the world sometimes struggle like getting really high in the ranks playing solo support. So maybe there's something there. But I think 100% if he showcases he can have the skill, it all comes down to whether or not he has a better understanding of the game. Because we know that Jesiz is the strategic coach for Immortals. But what we've seen is that Immortals doesn't have like necessarily the greatest grasp of strategy. I think Immortals looks like 2015 Fnatic with worse players. Mid and bottom lane. Like that's just my analysis of the situation. I think that Reckless and Yellowstar in 2015 is better than Wildtail and Adrian in 2016. I think the Febervin in 2015 was miles better than Pobelter in 2016.
What about the coaching
Uh,
staff?
No comment because I
Ooh.
don't know how they work. And
which-
I know,
That was a joke,
I'm just saying that I think the Fnatic 2015 coaching staff, particularly the analyst, is fucking super good. That guy, like, somebody should pay him
Yeah,
lots
I
of money.
heard
You were a
Magic-
strategic coach, not an analyst, no?
A bit of both. But
Wow, this
my
guy.
official title, was
I
analyst.
I heard Yellowstar was the one that ran that team more than
Yeah,
Vela.
I heard Yellow started strategy. and
Yeah,
their coaching
I
staff
heard so
was a
too.
Bigger head.
No comment. But yeah, like I think that in terms of like,
Oh, no
Immortals-
comment, because no rebuttal.
I want to make my point, for fuck's sake, Loco.
Okay, go ahead.
Basically, like I don't see any extra like in terms of strategic. I didn't see any strategic growth in Immortals over 2016. I didn't see any. I didn't see any. Yeah, like nothing they did was like new. What they did is they had really fucking good players at every position. Played super hand, played super YOLO. And the thing is that like I mean you were there in 2016. You played against Immortals. The way they played was like this super disrespectful. We're gonna go all in, and it's on you to punish. style.
But
And
it works in NA.
yeah,
NA
because
is not
nobody's good enough to
well-rounded
punish.
enough.
Yeah,
NA is not
nobody's good
well-rounded
enough to
enough, so everyone
punish.
gets away with everything, and everyone's like, "Holy shit, maybe this is the right way to play. Maybe this is the right way to play."
Yep.
You're just sitting there face palming, guys. Just play
And then-
standard and get better at standard, and I promise you will beat
Yeah,
everyone.
it's so
And
then
frustrating
you're
to play.
like-
Like,
and then
against
you're like,
this
wait,
team.
okay, these are the false prophets. Look towards Korea.
Yeah.
Korea. Then they're like,
Yeah.
but Huni, he's playing Cho'Gath top. He's playing full AP
It
Echo
was a
top.
counter to Rise. It was a counter to Rise.
Yeah, it was a good
And
counter
then-
to Rise actually.
And they'll say something like, "No, the gap is closing. Koreans, you can't just copy Koreans. Like it's not about copying Koreans. It's about learning
it's-
people that are better than you and understand the
Yeah.
game
Yeah,
at a
It's-
higher level.
Like,
I
look-
just
how Koreans like play it at the highest level, and don't just look at the picks. Just look at the style. Like look at how they move on the map. And
you know what Koreans do in other games when there's people better than Koreans?
Sure.
They
Copy them?
copy them. They
Yeah.
don't. They're not like we're Koreans. We're the best in the world, so we're gonna just do things the Korean way. They don't do that. They're like they're better than us. We should learn this because we want to be better.
to go back to like the question about Jesiz, I think if he continues to get like into high rank in
Yeah.
Korean solo queue, I don't like. I think he could play for an LCS team. I don't know how good of an LCS team he can get on, but I wouldn't mind trying him out. Obviously,
Okay.
with Spignar, who's like the best support in EU along with Mithy.
I mean,
Uh,
the support
but-
pool is so weak in NA that I don't see why he wouldn't get a shot.
But
Like,
remember he's an EU resident, not an NA
Yeah, so he'd
resident.
be an
Oh.
import if he plays on NA. So
Uh,
that would make it harder.
yeah, not worth in my opinion.
Okay,
I don't.
so-
I know no one's gonna import him in A, but I think in EU, there might be a few teams that might like would offer him a
Yeah,
tryout
I
or
can
like.
see that.
So
I
okay,
think the
here.
support walk in EU is even worse than NA, so maybe he's got a better shot.
Oh,
Alright, so
You have hustling on Giants, so yeah.
Yeah.
damn.
damn.
Let's talk about other shit other than the games from
Yeah.
yesterday.
Yeah.
I think we
Uh,
could have summed up the games as like
Yeah, game three. I just wanted to mention that for me, the name of the game was Poppy, Cuvee on Poppy, just canceling every single fucking TP from Impact, and like this guy has done something on Poppy that I never really see people do, which is like he uses heroic charge on a minion to close the gap and go for a Q, and he's done that multiple times. I'll just show like one example here. And it's something I haven't seen one Poppy player do at Worlds. Maybe I haven't been paying enough attention. But look here. He wants to trade with Jace. He goes and kills the minion Qs. And he gets a pretty decent trade. He's never going to win like super hard. But once he gets the Sunfire Cape, it's actually pretty decent. You know? So he kept doing these trades. And he kept going, I wouldn't say even, but he never really lost that much from these trades.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, Magnum was doing that in NA when he was playing Poppy, when he was starting on Kids and Challenger.
Oh, yeah,
when
the
he was
old
on, like,
Poppy?
Fusion. Yeah, he was doing that shit in NA. Like, people have been using Poppy's heroic charge on creeps since, like...
No,
Poppy
I know.
came out, like, beta, so-
I know people have been using it. I mean, like, recently, at this tournament, it's the first time I see someone use Poppy, like, so well. Like, everything on him was on point. He'd use heroic charge
mean,
to
yeah,
go on
like, he plays the
minions.
champ well, but it's like it's a pretty basic mechanic. I mean, most people don't use it because it's inefficient use of mana. Like, unless you can close the gap to get the 100% kill, it's like you're better off just saving it.
it's when you're winning lane hard enough and you don't want the lane to be neutral. So
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
just like, let's make it volatile.
I don't know, but, like, I know that the champion is quite
Top is
basic.
volatile, guys.
The champion is quite basic mechanics-wise, but, like, he's mastered it to a point where he always gets the pin on the wall.
No, I'd say
like,
Poppy's a complicated champion. Her W is like requires finesse, and her ult requires finesse as well. I wouldn't say she's a basic champion.
Yeah, I mean,
She's
like,
straightforward, but I wouldn't say she's like easy.
her skill floor is pretty simple, but her skill ceiling
Yeah.
is higher than I probably thought it was.
It's often like champions that are very like simple and like it's champions that have very straightforward skills that you have like huge what is it, like skill ceilings. Like I feel like champions like Israel are fucking simple as fuck, but he has like a huge like skill ceiling.
Yeah, it just comes down to like, I think it's got a really high skill ceiling because it comes down to how good you are mechanically, and as long as you can land skill shots, you're good at Ezreal.
Mhm.
You know, everything outside of that is not AD carry. Like, it's not like Ezreal specific. It's all like AD carry specific. You know, it's all like can you fight them for every CS? Can you make sure that you're like landing skill shots when they like walk up for CS? Can you like zone them off a wave? Can you find that angle? You know, like that's all like AD carry specific. That's not Ezreal specific at all.
So Loco, outside of the series, is there anything you really want to mention? Something about
Well,
maybe
what do you
today's
guys-
games?
What do you guys think about regarding the gap closing?
I
think
talked
it
about
is closing.
this. I talked about this last episode. I want to use TSM as the optimal NA or Western example and compare them, or even H2K, and like compare it to like Korea. And I think where we're seeing the gap closing is the early game and infrastructure. But I want to talk about just like in game. Early game, we seem to be like starting to figure out like how to like work with the jungler in an optimal fashion. But when it gets to the mid game, I feel like we haven't made that much progress compared to previous season, previous season.
Do you know why? My theory on this is because it's too hard to practice for the mid game in scrims because nobody plays for mid game in scrims. Like most teams kind of give up after laning phase if they're like really far behind. And like there's this like I went on this on the last episode about how like people were like banging on like the try hard in scrims mentality, which I actually think is actually a good way of playing scrims. I think you should be try harding in scrims because otherwise you never learn to play properly. But I think
You're the one that fucked TSM.
Yeah, I'm the one who fucked TSM by telling them to try and experience. Actually, that's Andy Din. Like Andy was the one who told me that every scrim you should play to win, and I agree with him because I think if you don't play to win, you never learn how to win. Like it's all a good learning how to set up Baron and set up waves, and it's like, but you need to learn how to win the game. Like you need to learn how to put all those steps together and learn how to win the game. And to do that,
then how do
I
Koreans
disagree.
do it?
You
disagree?
play to improve. You play to improve. Every scrim, the goal isn't to win. It's to come out a better team than you were before that scrim.
Sure, but at what point do you start putting all those pieces together? They don't just come together on their own.
Yeah, they don't come together on their own, but sometimes you isolate what you're bad at and you work on
sure,
that. And then
you can't do drills and stuff, but like what I'm saying is that like people say that like try harding like in scrims at any point was like that was at least what I understood the narrative to be was that like you shouldn't ever try hard in scrims. You should only be looking to like improve on specific areas. It's like no, once you were at boot camp, like the thing is, it's like people say that like TSM's boot camp at Korea was like all about try harding to win. It's like yeah, because at that point you should already have your drills down. You should already know how to set up Baron. You should already know how to set up Vision. You should already know how to set up waves. Like you got the whole fucking year to work on that. Like if you haven't done that by boot camp, you're not doing that at all. You ain't gonna fix that in time.
the first thing you learn when you get to a boot camp is probably new things that they're doing that you haven't experienced before. And I feel
sure. Okay, yeah, that's fair.
So while like this playing to win attitude is really great, I think it's good in small doses and it's good in the right situation, right scenario. And if you play every scrim to win, then you're not gonna win every scrim, first of all, so you're gonna be disappointed. And yeah, I just don't think it's the right mindset. I think some scrims, it's completely fine if you lose it. Like, if your team is really bad at Baron bait, you're just like, okay, these are the steps to fucking Baron baiting, and we are going to fucking pull off a proper Baron bait this scrim, okay?
Yeah,
and then you play the scrim, you pull off a proper Baron bait, but you lost later because of a team fight, then it'll be like, okay, guys, sit the fuck down. All right, did we actually Baron bait properly this game? Yes.
Yeah,
okay,
I'm not saying
great.
you should. Every scrim should be like try hard to win. I'm just saying that like there is an argument to be made that try harding to win is good. Like in some situations, I think it should not be written off entirely. That's what I'm saying. You know? Like of course you should run drills. Like that is important. But I think that there was a narrative that was set, and I know, like I'm gonna say, like TSM does drills. I can 100% tell you, I ran drills when I was on TSM in spring. Like they do drills. I can tell you that does happen. Like,
let me bring up something from last time since Loco wasn't here. I argued, Loco, that like when I was like with the last time I was trialing with a team, one thing I wanted to do was in specific days we were trying to figure out which identity was better for us in terms of playing for which lanes and playing against different comps. So like there was a day where I said today we're gonna try to play against Lulu comps and because I knew the enemy team wanted to practice Lulu comps, and I talked to the coach beforehand. So we're gonna try to play against it and figure out like ways we can be better against that comp. And in other days, for example, I put my top laner on a tank, and he hated playing tanks. and he hated losing lane, and he still does. And the objective was, let's see if we can play towards bot side, if we can have other carries other than top lane, and if we can have our jungler focusing on other lanes. And like if he can react well to pressure in the sense that if his jungler is top, he needs to know the mirror play where if the jungler is bot and he's focusing bot, he needs to back off. Like I think there's value in trying different stuff in scrims, like to figure out your identity, to figure out what you do well, to figure out how to play against different types of comps. So like I think troll bans and just empty bans are a pretty big part of scrims as well. Like letting OP shit go through so you can learn how to play with it and against it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of empty bans. I was doing that a lot in spring. I think it's
Ban nothing.
Yeah.
Ban Aatrox.
Yeah.
Aatrox, Ari, and Mumu.
Yeah. 3
Well,
bans.
we're playing Immortals, so let's ban Soraka.
Oh, we banned Soraka every scrim anyway because we were going to ban it because nobody else played it and nobody else was going to play it, and we were never going to let it open in their game anyway. So we always banned Soraka versus them because fuck that shit. It's just not worth playing against if nobody else plays it. It's such a cancer champ. I hate that shit.
I wanted to add that where even like an opposite example where you win a game, but you feel like there were a lot of problems with your team, like executing plays. So for example, like your team had like a 5k gold lead, and then they made like 2 huge mistakes, and the gold became even again. But in the end, your team still ends up winning. I end up being more upset about that than if my team somehow like lost the early game due to like the enemy doing something really good, and then ended up like slowly crawling back and like making like smart, effective plays.
Could I just address this real quick? Because I think that maybe people think that, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I think people think that when I say that teams like when you scrim to win, you still do a review afterwards. You still look at the mistakes you made and go like, we need to fix these mistakes and these are the steps that we do it. And then if it becomes a systematic problem, then you start doing drills. But like, if you're good at if you're like good at the basics, then like you can only do drills until you find something that you need to actually drill. You know, like it's what I'm saying is that like it's not like you play to win and then like you win the game, but you fuck up in the mid game somehow and you give up. Like it's not we just go, well, we won, so we achieved our goal, so great shit, everyone. That's not how it works at all.
I think,
like, of course, you look at the mistakes you made and go, this is a mistake. Like, let's talk about the mistake.
I think as an example, what TSM could have done was their style really got simplified into get pressure mid and jungle, play aggressive bot, and dive bottom, and it just turned into that. And one thing they could have done was, all right, yo guys, let's take scaling bottom, and let's try to make sure we try to snowball Haunter this game. And that would have been like really great practice in Korea because Korea has the best top laners, and you play versus good 2v2 duos all the time, or good top 2v2 duos like jungle and top laner. And that's something they could have really enforced and really practiced. And I felt like that was a huge hole in like their repertoire this tournament. Bottom lane didn't show up, and bottom lane played pretty badly, and they just weren't able to play towards top side or abuse top side because they probably were really used to bot lane doing really well and just diving bottom over and over again, and they weren't well rounded. If you're having constant success and your basics are good, it's find out what you're not good at. Find out what the fuck is like happening around globally. Like, it's so good to be good at legal, or it's so easy to like gain access to information in League of Legends nowadays. I feel like because of all the games being played and all the games being broadcasted and everything just globally, usually teams are on the same patches. So yeah, I just think some of the stuff that that's happening like has no excuse, and it could have been solved.
I agree. I think that
even
clearly there were some issues in TSM's practice, but I think that putting it all down to TSM only plays to win, it's like, first of all, that's not a true statement, and second of all, like I do think that this whole like only playing I think this whole like I just want to address first of all, TSM doesn't only play to win. That's not how they play, based on what I understand about TSM, which is a fair bit given the recent stuff, and also playing to win has value in scrims as long as you don't exclusively do that. That was the point that I wanted to make. So sorry, we can.
I mean, for me personally, when I'm working with the team, I don't tell them like you have to win this game. I tell them I want you to play your best and try to execute like a plan that we have in mind. Whether it's
every game
playing
has a plan
and,
based on your
yeah.
composition, but
and it's like for me, it's like I don't let them focus too much about like the end result of every scrim. But I think we can move on from this topic.
Wait. One last thing. Is a really easy fix to that is you sit the fuck down before scrims again, and then you're like, okay, what are the goals we have for this block? What are our individual goals? What do you guys want to achieve individually? Okay, top laner, I want to learn how to master play Jace. Okay, let's draft you Jace in the right situations, and then the games you have Jace, these are your goals regarding you want to be able to call for jungler, you want to be able to control your wave, you want to be able to build up your wave and actively communicate that and successfully pull off getting a turret early. So even if you lose the game, like if you do that and if you succeed in getting that done, then you had a successful game. And then you just give them goals as individuals, as a team, and then you just work on meeting those goals and getting better at what you're bad at. Like, fuck the results. Like,
yeah, but like you can do that and also still try and win. Like that's the point I'm making. It's like you can set like individual goals, and it's like, but you shouldn't ever go into a scrim looking to lose. You should be going to a scrim going, okay, we're going to work on Baron, but we're going to work on Baron with the intent to use Baron to win. That's like the point I'm making.
I feel like
it's with players.
Like with players.
With players, the hardest
you
part
don't want to
thing
mention
is, like,
results. You don't want to mention results. I think
if you're like, okay, these are the goals I want to hit, or these are the goals that we want to hit, and let's also play to win. Then, like for the Jace example, then bot lane can say something like, well, the bot lane dive was fucking free. And if we're playing to win, like this play is gonna fucking win us the game because we're gonna get the turret first, and then we're gonna be able to get dragon, and it's more valuable than the jungler going top. So I called the jungler to be bottom, and we finished our bottom lane gank, and we were successful.
Yes.
And then that's like
that can happen.
That's why what is it? I think it's fine to separate the two and be like, these are scrims for improvement, and these are scrims that we need to just hit our goals in, and that's what's gonna make us happy. And then these are scrims where we're playing to win, and we're gonna like consider mistakes and what happened really seriously.
So to finish off, what do the Western regions need to do for the gap to continue closing? Is it purely mid game that needs to really improve in your mind, Loco?
Infrastructure and coaches have to get better, and players have to be more willing to learn from coaches. I think coaches and analysts and strategic parts of the game, like we have the right idea, and then we caught up to Koreans so much in terms of knowledge. Now it just has to get implemented. Like it's getting implemented really quickly in Korea, and it's not getting implemented in NA and EU, and that's the problem.
I mean, do you think infrastructure is that much better in Korea right now, or is
No,
it
I don't think.
or is it the culture? Like
the culture, the culture of just shut the fuck up and listen to your coach is very there in Korea, while it's not there in NA, and you have to coax players into listening to you.
Yes, I think that's the biggest thing. Is like when I think of infrastructure, I think more about like the Korean work ethic, Korean culture. That Eastern mentality of like.
I would say NA has better infrastructure for certain teams, like TSM having well-done sports psychologists, a strategy coach, and parse, and then a bunch of individual coaches for their lanes. That's more infrastructure than most Korean teams. In terms of like personnel and amount of skill set they bring, people have more. Any teams have more.
Rocks last year had like sponsorship, financial issues. They have only one coach. I think they still only have one coach.
They have Nofei and they have Song, both from Najin, and they both do strategic aspects. And then that's
Song is the OG KL god.
But the thing is, it's like they also had 5 of the best players at every position and 5 of the smartest players at every position. So
I mean, last year.
Yeah,
they had Hojin, dude.
Oh, okay, maybe not Hojin. Okay, 4 or 5. Like Smeber's really fucking good. Prangarella were really fucking good, and Kuro is good. Like,
you know what the first thing NA players say when they play with a Korean player for the first time? Holy shit, this guy's so smart. He thinks about the game really differently. Like, he sees the big picture, and then he understands macro and strategy, and that's just like the norm in Korea, and that's what you get from playing in Korea for 4 years. So if those are the players you're coaching, of course it's gonna be so much easier.
Did Dardock or Dominate when you guys were scrimming Immortals for the first time? Like, what were their comments about Rainover?
I mean, for both Dardock and Dom are pretty confident people, so they're like, he's not that good.
All right. Okay. So for like other coaches and like my jungler at the time and like other junglers I've talked to, it's like when they like basically when I talked to the other coaches, it's like when we first started scrimming with Immortals and we saw how Rainover was playing, it's like, wow, we finally have someone that can teach us how to jungle in North America.
His pathing's so much more optimized.
Like I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure Rainover was the first like good jungler.
Rainover,
Rainover
smart.
made every other jungler better just by being in the region.
In terms of being smart, like Rush was good mechanically, but he's nowhere near as smart as Rainover. Like I think Rainover was the first smart jungler in NA.
Rush was still smarter than the NA junglers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd say-
of course.
But Rush played
Rush-
really disrespectful.
Yeah. Rush adjusted pathings, Rush red pathings, Rush adjusted on the fly. That's something that any jungler straight up didn't do. Dardog changed so much from playing against Rainover consistently.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
say Dardog learned more from Rainover than he did from me. Rainover was just way too good in terms of pathing and way too creative, and it was like stuff I couldn't teach. I don't have that kind of understanding over jungle.
Same
Yeah.
for Svenskar, and he made the same public comment that
Yep.
like,
I
to
went
get
with him with
better,
it. Yeah.
He
I
just
can
wants
speak about
Rainover
this. Yeah,
Sure.
like we literally used the 4 junglers we used. It was we would copy Rainover's pathing, we would copy Score's pathing, we would copy Peanut's pathing. Particularly the early jungle invades, we were really big on those. And we would copy Chaser. Those were the 4 junglers we used. Was Rainover, Score, Peanut, and Chaser. Were the 4 junglers we used to model about, like, depending on the situation, because they all had pretty distinct styles. It was like those were the people that we would use to model like how we wanted to play around the jungle.
Yeah. Okay.
We
So
would just like sit in front of odds forever and just like watch him. I would just sat there with like Svenskar and we would talk about like what is he doing here at this position and how is he like interacting with his lanes, and it was yeah. But Rainover just by being in a I think Rainover and Huni, that combination of 2 players, by being in the region, levels up the region so much. Which actually, I think that Rainover and Huni are almost single-handedly responsible for the the European success of 2015 and the regular season success of NA in 2016. I think those 2 are almost exclusively responsible for leveling up the regions.
okay. So game start in 15 minutes, so we kind of have to end here.
Shit.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Yeah, we should.
So and I have to go for dinner. So
I'm gonna
to end it. I'm gonna ask Loco for tonight's matches, which is SKT versus RNG. What score are you expecting and why? Like briefly.
3-0 SKT or 3-1 RNG, and whoever wins this wins the whole tournament.
Okay.
Oh shit!
Interesting.
Okay.
So you said 3-0 SKT or 3-1 RNG.
Yeah.
So how does like RNG, do they win? Like, do they get the 3-1 because like they start off the game and just get like 2 quick wins, or?
I would say 2 wins and 1 loss, and then final win for RNG, or 3 wins straight for SKT. RNG, when they're on fire, and then when like Maras and their coaches have just been talking so much like good things about their team, so I'll give them like that slight maybe they do beat SKT and everything does click, and their mid jungle duo isn't as bad the more I look at them, and they have Koreans and Uzi and other roles, so they could definitely beat SKT.
Yeah. So you think like if they click game 1, they can really do it. If they don't click game 1, they get demolished.
Mhm.
Okay.
Can I quickly ask you a question? I actually made this statement that I think this is the most one-sided stylistic matchup of the bracket stage, because for RNG to beat some SKT, the only way I see people beating SKT is by punishing Faker and the way he really greedily plays lane, and the fact that he has no synergy with his jungler. I don't think that seems to me like the only thing RNG can't do, given the way that their mid jungle synergy doesn't work. Would you agree with the statement this is like a super one-sided stylistic matchup in favor of SKT?
So the other way, I would like half sort of agree. The other way that SKT also loses is when Wolf sometimes makes big mistakes in lane, and then he doesn't get punished as much because other bot lanes aren't as good.
Mhm.
But I feel like RNG is a team that can punish bot lane mistakes, and I don't think Wolf is super
Yeah.
stellar. I think Wolf is the chink in their armor, and like they can crack from Wolf also, not just cracking from Faker. So I
Okay.
don't think they're gonna crack from mid, but they could definitely crack from bottom.
Okay. That's interesting. George, what's your prediction?
My prediction for today, I think 3-0 SKT.
Nasser, I think you already said 3-0 SKT.
I've got 3-0 sweeps all across the board.
Yeah,
I've got
okay.
one yesterday. Expecting my second one today.
Yeah, I'm going to
I-
3-0, but I really like Loco's perspective that if RNG take first game, they can they can be dominant and win the BO5.
If I have to bet money, I would bet 3-0 FKT.
Yeah,
But
yeah. So-
we want to talk about the other possible stories.
Yeah, sure. So I think we're going to end it on this note. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the War Room Daily Debrief. And we'll be back tomorrow to talk about the second quarterfinal, I believe, with another guest who we haven't announced. Loco, as always, a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for coming.
Pleasure to be here also.
I think we had some very interesting discussion today. And also for myself and our two co-hosts, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And yeah, we're going to end it here. So see you tomorrow. Bye.
Peace. Bye.